and they can hear me and they can hear you. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's panel where we're going over the movie Uglies. Please let me know how sound is. We've got all these lovely people here, and I'm sure someone's mic will blow out someone's ears. So please let me know. And how about we introduce ourselves and then we'll get into the discussion for the movie. So, Genevieve, why don't we start with you?
All right. Hi, guys. I am Genevieve, aka Madam Genevieve. I am a occasional online content creator, streamer, and online and IRL sex worker and sex educator. We have been doing these talks for a year now, you guys.
Oh my God, I just forgot to. 1 year anniversary, guys,
1
officially doing
year.
panels together. Woo woo.
This has been really, really awesome.
It's been great.
And it's the most regular streaming that I'm doing right now. So I definitely am looking forward to our combo today.
Love
There's
that.
my IT guy. Thank you.
Thanks, Leave. I love it. All right, Harmony.
Hi, I'm Harmony Bancroft. I am also an in-person sex worker and I dabble just slightly online and in this little corner of the internet here as well. Known here as Maiden Monster as well. So you can find me the links below or on x.com.
Perfect.
Good to be
Arena.
here. I'm so happy for a year.
Yes, happy year. Arena.
Hi, happy 1 year anniversary to us, to our streaming. My name's Arena. I'm Arena Nana on YouTube. I make mostly fashion content. I just posted a little vlog of a festival I went to. So if you're looking for festivals to go to in Southern California, check that out. And I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. And Sociologic Ali, welcome, welcome, our guest for the month and the man who suggested this wonderful topic. So very stoked to have you. Go ahead and tell people where to find you.
So yeah, you can find me at Sociologic. It's 2 L's for logic. Anywhere, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, if you really wanted to. But yeah, I'm more of a panel guest, but I hope to be making some videos soon. I want to do some video essays. Take my hand at that. But yeah, thank you
Love
for
that.
having me, and thank you for taking the recommendation. So
yeah, I'm stoked. So we've all seen it. I even watched it and discussed it with my Discord just to give my audience time to catch up in case they didn't have a chance to see it themselves on their own. So we should be all caught up. So we will be sharing spoilers. We'll be discussing the movie. So if anyone doesn't want spoilers, please leave now. Now, I didn't read the books, and I was curious on how many of us had read the books in order to compare it to the movie. Anybody read the books?
Mm-mm.
Perfect. Great. So we're just talking about the movie today. So all you book readers in the audience, you will be the only ones who know anything about the book in comparison. So initial thoughts. Anybody want to share first?
I just have a thought related to the books, right? I did not read them, but there's like a lot of them. There's a lot of, it's not just one book, it's like a whole series as far as I understand it, including like a spin-off on it,
Oh.
if I'm not mistaken. And again, I could be wrong because I've not read it. I just read a synopsis of that. But that would lead me to believe potentially that they left the ending kind of like open for sequels or future story development. And again,
Yeah.
that's speculation. So if anybody of our viewers have seen or have read the books, like, does it seem like we're maybe leading into a sequel? Possibly. I think that's kind of where it might be going.
Yeah, the chat says there's 4 books, and from my understanding, the first book is also kind of a cliffhanger, so I think the movie basically copied that.
Yeah, okay.
So they made a series out of them, like out of the books for the movies. I hated that. I'm not gonna lie. I really wanted like just the movie, and I
Yeah.
was like, give me that. But
Yeah.
they had such a good, or they have a great premise. I guess I'm just like annoyed by the time frame that they want to do it in, because I think it's a good, like there's a lot to play with in this movie.
I
was
agree.
gonna
Yeah,
say,
so I kind of hated the movie, but I liked
Yes.
the premise.
Yes,
I
thank
liked
you.
there's
Okay.
like it opened up a lot of like questions to talk about, but it kind of the movie itself felt like adolescent. I don't know, that was the thing that kept coming to my mind. Like this
Made
is
for
like an
13-year-olds.
adolescent fantasy. Yeah. I
Because
would have
it
liked to
is
see
like
more
the young adult
nuance.
book series, right? Like
Yeah.
the target
Yeah,
audience
so that
is
makes
young,
sense. I did
yeah.
not know that watching it. Okay. Yeah,
Oh,
that makes a
yeah.
lot of sense. I would
Yeah.
have liked to see more nuance. I would have liked to see some bad good characters and some good bad characters, that kind of thing. I would have liked to see some some of the pitfalls of, the supposed, communist ideology. I would have liked to see some of the benefits of the more like pretty side of things, like I would have just liked more
Mhm.
nuance in general.
Or anything from the pretty side of things. All
Yeah,
we got
yeah.
to see was some
Not just
people and
like,
like a flash of a party.
yeah, that was part of the
Yeah.
adolescence of it. It was just like very binary. Like this is the bad villain in every way, and these are the good guys. Yeah.
I was gonna
I
say
still wanted
so.
to explore the world more. Like,
Yeah.
I went on like a roller coaster journey. Like as I was watching the movie, I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get on there and I'm gonna tell Ali how mad I was that I had to spend my Saturday watching this." But then I was like, "Okay, this movie is, I wouldn't even say for 13-year-olds. This movie is for like 9, 8-year-olds, which is okay
Glad-
because they deserve movies too." um, and but I did find myself saying, and her name was Katniss Everdeen, like
Stop.
several times throughout the movie. I felt like it was trying to be Hunger Games, and it just wasn't gonna be
This would
Hunger
have.
Games.
This is what the internet said, and I agree. This movie would have killed during that era, though. Like
Yeah.
it was so,
Oh, yeah.
because there was The Host, and there was Twilight, and there was all the dystopian films, and all the
Mhm.
book series that went with them. And I think it would have really killed, just like KSI song would have killed in 2010 YouTube. It just like it feels like timing. Like everything is timing, and this
Yes.
feels so random right now. Like, girl, people are dying in Palestine. Please, like, what are you doing making
Yeah.
a movie about being pretty? But like, maybe that was the
And
message.
casting only beautiful people, including the people that were supposed to be
Oh my
ugly.
God.
So it's like, what point were you
whole-
trying to make?
Daniel was, or David was like the most gorgeous guy they could have like picked. to
Good
be,
God,
like,
right? Like,
we
that
don't care what
man's
people
skin-
look like. Me, 7
hydrated
foot 2.
AF. Like you're living out in this like post-apocalyptic world and you look good. I wanted them to do like some makeup and some effects to make these people look a little more rough around the edges.
Maybe some
like,
pimples or something.
some pimples, some eye bags, like have some fucked up teeth. I don't know, like something that feels not so pretty. 'cause
Yeah,
they
it's
were
like, of course you
definitely-
don't need to get plastic surgery when you look like that,
Yeah.
but like, how about let's try to make it a point for, you know?
Okay, so then cool. Okay, I was gonna feel bad coming in and saying that I hated it. I fell asleep for like a part of it. Woke up. It was. I wish we would have watched It's What's Inside instead and done
Oh.
this, but we'll do this for another time. However, we can have a lot of fun with the characters. I was so mad when Laverne Cox was the villain.
Really?
Yeah, because you know what? Okay, I don't want to be like that guy, but like in a movie where the villain is this like eugenicist, I don't think they should have cast like
It's slightly
trans-
tone deaf,
like-
isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
like someone trans, and then on top of that, a black woman with like the blonde hair, blue eyes. So it's like two fronts where it was a little too on the nose of like, I'm the bad person who wants to change everyone's body and make people like
Oh, I
follow my whim.
see. I see.
It was a little bit much for me. I was
That's
like,
That's
"Hmm."
why when I saw that actually in the previews, I was like so excited because I'm like, ooh, like what's this gonna be about? What's the nuance gonna be? I expected it because of that, but they
Well,
did not go there at all. Yeah.
Do you think like Laverne probably doesn't want to always be seen as just like a trans actress? So I'm assuming that
Yeah.
she isn't. But even the like, I don't know how much race is playing a role in these stories, or like how much even being a perfect. Like I like her as an actress, so I was excited to see her in a role. But I could see how our brains talking about their bubble or their world, their like fantasy world, might be like, oh, but that's Laverne, and we know her, and we know her
It
story.
doesn't allow you. It doesn't allow you to
Mm.
not like focus on it because like I wanted like because I'm distracted by the annoyance that I have.
But
'cause
I
I'm like,
think that's from
this
the
feels
perspective
mean.
as like an adult watching it. Like, if we're gonna concede and like recognize that this movie is for kids,
Yeah.
kids aren't gonna even view it that way. And like, I don't know about anybody else, but when I was a kid, I don't think I recognized most of the actors anyway. I was just watching them for the characters they were playing. I do think that Dr. Cable was a very flat kind of villain that was
Yeah,
just kind of
that
like
part.
Too on the nose.
very but again, like coming at it from like a very young child's or young teen's perspective, and depending on how the sequels go, if there will be sequels, like I'm hoping that the sequels will turn it around and make it like a better series and maybe like try to grow with the audience. But yeah, no, I don't think them casting Laverne was a problem, and you know she is very famous and probably not hurting for work, so this is probably a project that she wanted to do.
Well, even the main
I don't know.
actress, she's kind of having her moment right now. She's also in another
Mhm.
Netflix show called Family
She
or
produced this movie
What?
too. Yeah, I was Googling earlier,
Oh,
and she
that's
produced this movie, which
crazy.
maybe explains some of the cinematography that like I didn't love as well, because I think this might be her producer debut.
Okay, that makes a lot of
Okay.
sense. So it's interesting, like the casting.
Mhm.
Okay, here's I think where I would also like to start off because I think it's important. Ugly or pretty? Which one would you do?
In the way that it was presented,
Yeah.
I would have joined the pretty society easily.
I said the same thing. I was like, I'm gonna be pretty.
Yeah,
Let
just
me
like
party, like
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good.
See, the self me would definitely be ugly, but like all the ways that I'm tempted, that part of me would definitely be pretty. Yeah.
See, because a part of me was like, look, like in that particular world, like specifically, the only perk of being ugly was like, oh, I have a personality. I don't know, bro. Shrimp parties in a
Yeah.
mansion sound pretty nice, bro. I don't know if I need a personality that bad. Because like, what other part of that
I
is
did
like,
think it was an interesting premise. Like if you could do something and automatically make it so that other people would like react to you in the way that you wanted, would you do that? Hell the fuck yes, I would do that. You know, if it didn't sacrifice who I really was. If like
But
other
I feel like
people could actually see me, you know.
I don't know enough about the pretty. Also, I'm
True.
confused about the government of this world. Okay, so there's so is the world government the city?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? What's with the
So
other
this- so
countries?
The
I
world
think
the
it's
world is
just
fucked.
there, right?
The world is fucked.
As
Yeah,
a-
we destroyed the world. The Rusties
Right.
destroyed the world. And then they
Right.
the scientists of the time found the flower, the white dragon
Mhm.
orchid.
The orchid,
So they
yeah,
so this like flower, I guess, restores life or is like great for like
but
regenerative
it's also
whatever bullshit.
toxic.
Yeah. And really
No,
bad.
Has,
it's
like,
the-
toxic
leeches
after
It is
effects or
toxic,
whatever.
right?
Yeah.
It's used for energy. It's used in place of fossil fuels, and like
Yeah.
it's used to generate electricity. But it also leaches all the nutrients from the soil,
got it.
and
Yeah,
is
so it
basically
kills
an invasive
everything.
species.
Which I'm like, have these people not heard of like crop rotation yet? Like, is that not
No,
a
they
thing in this
haven't.
world
They don't know
anymore?
about
Or is it
that.
all
Okay.
destroyed? And that's the thing is like I can't tell if this is
Yeah.
so into the
Well,
future that you know what I
yeah.
mean.
It's like a couple hundred years into the future, I think, is what I
Everything
had
is
read. It's
synthetic.
supposed to be just
Okay.
a few hundred years.
Everything is
Everything
synthetic.
is synthetic
Um,
in the city. So like when they were in the dorms, everything was like kind of like they could generate it. So that's why
I
that's
liked
what
her
the big
hats.
push.
That was kind of fun.
That was kind of cool, yeah.
Okay, I
so
love how
that's
we
what
went
the
to
big push
synthetic
for-
too. I like her
yeah.
hats.
Sorry, interrupting. Sorry.
No. So from
Not her
so
hacks,
that-
her hacking. Her hacking
Oh,
with the ring that she
hacking.
was able to.
Hats.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not hats.
Squirrel, sorry.
No, so the big push for like the smoke was like things were natural. They were growing their own food. There was water. They were like enjoying natural life, and that was like the big push for like going to be part of the smoke. Where just like everything was synthetic in like the world. So they didn't. I don't think they cared that the orchid was destroying like taking the nutrients from the soil because they didn't need the nutrients from the soil. So
Okay.
that's why
Fair,
that's why the other people were burning it because
They used
okay,
orchid
so,
to
like,
make everything, even their synthetic nutrients. Yeah.
yeah. So the government, I think, runs in a way where they're like, hey, we've kind of perfected it. People can live in this city. We don't need to work because no one has to build anything. And we have this machinery and we get to just control all of your lives. And so the government is just like, hey, she said it. She's, when Laverne was, I don't, when, Cable. When she was like, hey, so like some of us are like, better than others and we get to determine how you live. And she's like, there's obviously going to be like a select few elites.
Mm.
I thought they were going to make David her son. I thought that was going to be the thing.
Yeah.
That would have been
But then,
interesting.
yeah, we met his mom, so
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so the government is, hey, you turned 16, which is I think an odd year to turn and
It's a
like,
great
hey,
YA young adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're 16, you get
Quintessential
to
teenage
you get
year,
to join
yeah.
this like perfect society where no one has to work. We make you perfect inside and out, and you really don't have to eat or anything. And then antagonist or the fighters, the terrorists of the group would be the people in the smoke who are burning the flowers because they're like, hey, we found out how to regrow everything, so we can just do that instead of living the synthetic life. And so now you have to choose which do you want.
Mm-hmm. Is there what's the
So the
negative?
benefit.
Yeah, what's the benefit and negative? So like the negative of living synthetically is like if you're pretty, like parts of your personality get numbed out, right? Like you become
Yeah,
less
the
of
Right.
yourself.
lesions. Yeah, the
I
lesions.
think
And you're
they
almost like
also-
living in like a matrixy type thing, right?
Mm.
Because it is
I think they also
synthetic, so
talked
you're
about
not
like
eating.
the brain lesions potentially causing like a shortening of life
Mm.
as well.
Oh, I didn't
And
catch
not
that
just
part. Okay.
cognition. Because the mom talked about how some people have died from the operation,
True.
which makes sense as well. And then I
Mm.
don't know if this is, I think I read somewhere online, so this might be in the subsequent books, but I think the people who get like the basic operation, they can only live to 30 or something like that. There's like a weird, yeah, I think
Oh.
there was a weird catch there as well.
So
with the
there's no
operation,
like
but
seniors in the pretty world.
Oh, we
like,
didn't see any old
Yeah,
people, did
they were-
we?
yeah.
I don't think we
That's-
did.
We saw
old
So
people in
that's
the
a good
smoke.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw old people in the smoke, but
Hmm.
yeah, that might be an interesting caveat. So
Maybe,
if there
yeah,
was,
being pretty shortens you to a
Yeah.
very
So maybe that's
limited
definitely
time
not worth
frame.
it for some people. Well, here's the question that kept coming up with between David's parents. They kept saying like free thinkers, like we want free thinkers, and I kept thinking, what is a free thinker? Because everybody thinks they're like a free thinker, right? Like every single person I've ever met in my life is like, I'm a free thinker. I'm like, yeah, I know. We all think we're free thinkers. What does that mean? What do you guys think that means? And what is the message the film's even sending? Because I think that is such a message I've heard my whole life. Like, be a free thinker. Don't let people think for you. And I'm like, what does that even mean?
So I think they like seen what the people in the city were like, and they were like, oh, those people they don't have like they don't make their own choices, right? They can't choose to leave. They don't choose to be like this. You kind of just get forced into it. And I guess it's like, oh, like you want to be able to make your own choice. They want to age. Do you like the frown lines? Did you want to keep the scar, right? Because he said like when I got here, I guess I just didn't want to keep it anymore.
Right.
And so like, did you not want to keep it, or was it the like surgery or the lobotomy that made you not want to keep it?
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's the same sort of like question of like when we kind of deconstruct our desires, and what makes us want the things that we want. Like, so
Right.
we think that it comes from us, but like how much of what we want actually comes from being a part of like the society that we're part of, with the messages that they give us about what it means to be happy and all of
Yeah.
that. Like I grew up wanting a huge family, and that is not my happiness right now. I thought that's what I wanted, but it took like deconstructing what I really wanted. So it's like in that kind of a world, yeah. What does a free thinker mean? Because you can't really separate your human brain from the fact that we're social, like such social creatures. But I don't know, maybe it's just an awareness of that.
In a really literal sense, I guess just not like going along with what everybody else does, and like you turn 16 and you automatically get this like operation and like become something without even questioning it, I guess. Like obviously that's super
But
simplified,
then like so then you belong in the box of the free thinker box. Is that really being a free thinker? You know what I mean? Like
right,
there's
right.
always
Then
the
you,
like
yeah,
how
it's
far
a,
down does it go? Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
the one girl loved hoverboarding, right? And the argument that they had was like, oh well, if you go to the city, you like no one hoverboards, no one's learning new tricks, everyone's kind of doing the same thing, which is like everyone's just partying and enjoying their life. And so I guess for them, like free thinkers, like what do you think like joy is, right? Do you think joy is like riding the hoverboard, learning tricks, or do you think it's just waking up, being pretty, having like drinks and like a party every night, and there's this party here and that party there? Is it like, but honestly, like in the world that was presented, the alternative was just you don't really get to do much. It's not like she was hoverboarding and doing tricks. She was just working hard all day.
Mm.
Right? They were just building society. They were
Blisters
they were
on her
deco-
and
they were
like
deconstructing.
farming and
Yeah, they were
like
deconstructing rails and melting them down to make pots. Like I don't know if that's like being a free thinker just because you're not like not lobotomized or not like
I
I guess you didn't drink the Kool-Aid.
I also think about like at what point can you consider yourself a free thinker? Is it at the point that you don't get the surgery and go to the smoke, or is it at the point where you get the surgery and then decide not to go to this party? Or I mean,
Mm.
also we don't know like what's
Right.
even available in the city. I imagine hoverboarding and whatever is available because I mean there were those bungee
Mm.
little
True.
Right, the
blankets
bungee
or whatever.
vest.
So
The bungee
people
vest.
clearly do other thrilling, like extreme sports and stuff like that in the pretty world. I'm assuming also, like, there's no way, and I imagine the second book, Pretties, addresses this. There's no way there's not a social hierarchy in the pretty, like, there's no way
Yes,
that they
that was-
fix
I
that
Yeah.
don't
because
believe that
Specials.
either.
In
There's
an
the
No,
in an
specials.
like
inside
There's,
where
like-
everyone is pretty, it's like what is the new standard
Yeah.
for us?
there's
Yeah,
the
there's-
they made
specials,
it
but
seem
also,
like
Mhm.
yeah,
all of our
I was gonna
problems are
say,
not
like,
just going to be solved by everybody suddenly being
yeah, and I was
Yeah.
gonna
best
say, like,
version
even
of
like
themselves.
the hierarchy of like, there's people who are attractive who are born that way. So then imagine if like your surgery just fixes the teensiest thing, and then you get to flex with
Right.
that, or because of where you started, the surgery gets to take you above where everyone else is.
Mm.
So I'm interested to see, like, if anything, I'm more excited for the sequel than I am for this first movie. I
Mm.
think this first movie like was the setup, and now let's see the
Yeah.
nitty gritty of the Pretties society and like what Maiden was talking about earlier, like the good bad characters, the bad good characters, like what's going on. I think Hunger Games did a much better job with
Oh,
the world building.
I think it's
compared
unfair to compare them. Like, honestly,
Yeah,
like one felt like an
probably.
actual movie.
That's true. This is more like Sky High, but like dystopia.
Okay, Sky High
like,
is a great fucking film. Sky High is a classic. Okay,
but
I like that
that-
movie.
we love it, but that's your nostalgia talking, right? Like if I show
True.
a 9-year-old The Uglies, they're gonna love it and they're gonna be talking about it 10 years
True,
later.
true, true,
but,
true,
like,
true. Yeah,
as far as like quality of movie goes,
it was like a
It's
WB
about-
show. It was like a little bit like I
Yeah.
can't remember if Buffy was better, but I felt like it might have been. But it was still like I think it set up the world really well because I will see the sequel now. Because now I
Yeah.
gotta know. I gotta know what happens.
Plus
I'm
also,
too
if you get
curious.
more of the pretty world, that'll be fun. just
That's what I want to see. Because I
Yeah.
want to see if there's an argument for why it's still good. But I do think what's important is that even if we all were, quote, the standard of beauty, we wouldn't be the same. There is a hierarchy. If there's a hierarchy, obviously, with what's Laverne's character's name? I already forgot.
Exactly.
Gable.
There's like
Mhm.
gay
Gable, right.
elites or whatever.
So like if she's the top, then there is a top. And like the question is like who
Yeah.
gets to be there? And you know, it was interesting. The most evil thing I thought through the whole movie that I thought actually happened was not the government killing its citizens. I live in America. It's the it was the part where like she forced him sort of against his will to get another surgery and then made him
Yeah.
a robot. Like I thought that was like really sad.
Yeah, and that's like called like a special or something, I guess,
Yeah.
according to the
Yeah.
books.
and then
I
the
also have a
who's Paris?
question.
Question mark?
So
Sorry.
when you say forced
Yeah.
him, do you mean tricked him? Because she like told him she's like, I can make you better and I can get
True.
Like,
The,
you know,
maybe
and
it's
he
the
went.
the manipulation of it all.
Manipulated.
And then
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
she almost used him as like an object to like kill his friends, which
Yeah.
again, like I understand is that idea of creating soldiers and like you're moving soldiers to like not ask questions and to do what they're told. And there is so much to that. Also, oh, can I say something? Oh my God. The main character, what's her name? Anybody?
Tally.
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 When yeah.
Tally, Miss Free Thinker, every time she talks to somebody, she's like, that's a great idea. I believe that now. You're right. I believe this now. Wait, I believe this now. And I was like, girl, they didn't even show you evidence, girl. They just told you a story. And this is what
Being
I
a
mean.
free
Like,
thinker does not mean changing your philosophy every single time. Like maybe it means listening to other people's philosophies, but like you can't. That's not. She's
So
not
she
doing
has
that
to
correctly.
grow for the majority of like Hunger Games, because we're gonna keep going back to Hunger Games comparison, because like for the majority of Hunger Games, Katniss pissed me off with the whole like I don't want to be the hero, but I have to. I don't want to be the
The
hero.
reluctant
It's like-
hero.
Yeah, and so it was like the same thing with this girl who's like, oh, like she's instantly believes. First of all, I didn't like her as like the actor for the character. I don't know why it
Mm.
bugged me. I think the doe-eyed thing
Interesting.
was a little bit like, because it was so like she was just so gullible to everything, which maybe is what the character's supposed to be. But then when she turns around and tries to take like accountability and put herself in the forefront, I just don't believe that she's the person who would actually do that. when she's like, "I'll sacrifice
Yeah,
myself." I was like,
so true.
I
Her
don't
character is
really
such a
think
flake.
I don't
Right,
like. Well, when
right.
did you have time to become like heroic?
Yeah,
Where was the belief? What did
where
you
was the character
see that was like?
development?
Oh,
Yeah,
the movie was rushed, right? Didn't everything feel
Mhm.
so rushed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
it
for
Yes.
me,
did.
it's I kind of feel like obviously there's a series that's actually written, but for me, when she sacrificed herself, I was like, you just want to be, you're just done. You just want to be a pretty.
You're just getting what you
Wait,
always wanted in the
Yeah.
right?
first
'Cause
place, which
doesn't
was to be pretty.
isn't it a win-win though? Because okay, the cure is only for the lesions, right? It doesn't
Right, you
reverse the
stay
plastic
pretty.
surgery. So
You
you
just
You stay pretty?
win-win. You just stay hot
Yes.
and you get the cure.
She's the smart one. Yeah.
So the government doesn't want them to have the antidote or whatever because then they aren't as easily controlled and
Controlled.
distracted, right? Like they're going to
Yeah.
be more they'll have higher cognition.
The free
But
Mm.
you
thinkers.
stay pretty. So like Tally's getting the best of both worlds here, provided
Mhm.
that she gets to take the antidote later. She's going to be this free thinker who's also pretty.
Damn, bro. But it begs a question because I think all of us have access now with the way surgeries are going and everything. They're getting better and better. We're learning more about it. It does beg the question, like, would you want to do it? Like with Ozempic on the market, it's interesting to see how many people have
Oh,
always
yeah.
wanted a magic pill, but now they won't take it. Or some people want it. You think you want it until you're given an opportunity. And the question is, like, I feel like this movie gives people an opportunity to say, like, is this really what you want? Or like, can you learn to like live with the body you were given? But also, is there anything really wrong with wanting to be pretty? And I think that really sets into, sets or forces the question of, am I doing this for me or society? Am I doing this so people judge me a particular way? Am I climbing up a ladder? And also her friend, the guy with the scar, looked way better before. Just the blonde was not working for me.
Oh,
I know. I was like, did
I
he choose
agree.
in his surgery to look like he didn't touch up his roots in 2 months? Like, was that a choice?
So agree.
I thought he
Like,
looked sick.
that was
I thought
not
he
a
looked
good
sick.
choice.
Literally.
That was for the male gaze. All right. Okay.
No.
He looked sick. The blonde
Oh,
wasn't
you
the
meant
great
sick in
choice,
a
but he
good
did
way.
look. Yeah. He did look better than
I'm like, yeah, no, he looked unwell.
I was like,
You're
he did
correct.
look
Yeah.
better. I wanted
because
to
they all look like vampires with the
Okay,
gold
I
eye.
think-
They
I
all
was
look like
waiting-
The eyes
vampires
were
with the little
scary.
golden
Like, why are
eyes
we
and
doing
stuff
these
like
terrible
that.
contacts? They're
And everyone
I
awful.
don't know. Maybe
everyone
this is
had,
my
like, yeah.
misogyny, but I do not like men with plastic surgery. I think it's creepy. But
was-
women, I'm fine with.
For sure.
I just wanted him to say, like, this
a
is
world
the
where
skin of
everyone
a.
has it.
I was
Yeah,
waiting
fair,
for
yeah.
him to say, this is the skin of a killer, Bella. And I was like, That's what I was waiting for, truly.
Okay, but his Simba ass, Mufasa ass death, like
What was that, bro? She didn't even try to save him. She was out, bye,
Yeah.
bitch.
And just that fight was so goofy between David and Paris.
Oh,
it was like
Let me
them
tell
fighting
you.
over-
What's the lesbian's name? That's what I'm calling her. Tay,
Shay?
Tay, whatever.
Shane?
Shay.
Shane.
Okay,
Shay.
so my dumbass.
Okay, yeah.
The whole time I thought she was into Tally. And so I was like, oh, this is a gay love story. This
Me
is
too.
great. I was like, this is beautiful. And then someone on my Discord's like, oh, yeah, there's like a love triangle. I was like, oh, cool. I've never seen a love triangle where it's like a guy and a girl going for the same girl. And they're like, no, Brittany, it's two girls are supposed to go for David. I was like, no one cares about David. Like, nobody cares about David.
Honestly.
What? But in the books, apparently.
It would have been way better.
I was like, I wanted a lesbian romance. And I was like, this is so 2024 of us. And
I-
then
Totally thought that Shay was into Tally, but then also, but I did immediately clock her being into David with the glove
Yep,
situation.
with the gloves.
Mm.
It gives me
But it's
something
also
different
like-
here.
It
Exactly.
just rushed so much. We didn't have time to give a shit. So.
True. Okay. So there's that romance, the idea of like gifts mean something here, like giving, like he made these gloves. This is what I mean.
Mhm.
Because there is this part of like, let's just say American culture, which fantasizes about like doing it from scratch again. And I'm like, okay, relax. We've done this before. That's why we know not to do everything from scratch. But I also know like organic is interesting to people, or like doing it yourself is interesting. I think that's beautiful. Where's the balance between wanting to do something organic and like from your own hands and wanting to reinvent the wheel?
I mean, I think it's just about meaning making. That's what it is.
Ooh.
And that's what's really important to humans, essentially, is the meaning behind it. And then that, if you think about a society of pretties, it's basically stripping all the meaning from
Mm,
what even pretty means, you know? If everyone is
true.
pretty, is that even a does that mean anything? You know, it's just completely
Right.
Well, you have to
vacuous
have
of meaning.
uglies.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah,
have the uglies
exactly.
without yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. But yeah, I would say it yeah, there is something meaningful about the more in touch you feel with existence and reality, the more meaningful that it feels. So I get the homemade, you know,
For sure.
the desire to go back to it, you know? There is something like when you like actually understand in your brain like the whole process of how things come to be. It's like, "Oh, I don't it does it may but maybe it's just a feeling." But
And I
yeah,
guess
feels more
for like a
meaningful.
16-year-old, which is like the whole thing they're
Mm,
pushing is like 16-year-olds are the ones who are making the decision. For a 16-year-old to go out of their way to decide like, hey, I don't want to live this party life. I'm actually gonna go and want like age lines and like just go work. I guess like it does change like how important it is and like how like what it
mhm.
does. Cause so like I don't know, at 16, if you ask me, like, hey, do you want to go work hard and like camp in the woods? Like, absolutely the fuck not. I've been waiting my entire life. I'm gonna go. So, like, maybe there is something to say about the people who are trying to like live a more natural life. But then my question is like, when we were, so like reinventing the wheel, the first time we did that and we lived the natural life, they fucked the world and we destroyed the planet
Mm,
anyways, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
they're sitting here like we can preserve nature. It's like, but we never did preserve nature. And the only way humans were able to survive was doing this other thing. So it's like it kind of seems like you don't want to preserve life for the sake of preserving nature. But nature got us to a point where we had to do this. So technically speaking, this white orchid thing is like the nature that's supposed to exist. So I
mm.
don't know if I even agree. Like maybe the other people are the bad guys. Maybe it is better for humans to just like
I know,
I
I
mean,
would like one of those switches where they show the other side and it's like, "Oh, now this side's the bad guy." Same story, same exact
yeah,
story,
Mm.
but just switch the sides, you know?
yeah,
That
Yeah.
would be
because like
cool.
maybe
That
it
would
is
be really
better for
cool.
humans or humanity to like, hey, you live till you're 35. Like, so if we're gonna go with like the spoilers we think are like so far, or the premises we think we're
Apparently
going with.
not true though. There are old people and
Oh,
they're called, what are they called, guys? I missed it.
Crumbly?
Rumblies?
Crumblies?
Crumblies. Yes,
Yeah.
that was my bad. That I just
okay.
thought I heard it, but I think maybe that TikTok was talking about the brain lesions because she was saying, "Oh, they like lobotomize you, and then that shortens your life or whatever." And then I took that. So
Oh,
that was from a TikTok.
okay.
Maybe there are old people in the
But
pretty
still.
world. I want to see them. I want to see
So like
them.
Mm.
Yeah, see
maybe
them.
it is actually better, right? Like in a world because every time we've ever like anytime I've ever talked about eugenics, everyone says like, yeah, once we cure all the things, we'll all be equal. It's like, well, no, humans don't want to be equal,
Right.
right? There's always gonna be like there's always like once you cure the physical things in the like medical, there's now the social that you're gonna have to cure,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's
100.
like not something you cure with like eugenics. So with them, maybe it is just you know what better. Hey, everyone's gonna be like equal in the sense of like there's no like economy, right? You kind of just wake up and party or do whatever the fuck you want every day. You look the best, but then also just to tweak it, hey, you're also a little bit dumber, right? And
Mm-mm.
maybe that is a better way for society because the first way when we had like people being free thinkers and individuals, right? It always like worked out that someone had to manipulate someone else or control someone else to achieve and become high and make this like so like yeah let's just strip the competitive nature, let's strip this whole individuality thing. You're still yourself, but yeah, to a lesser degree, and hey, look, you get to live a better life.
I was gonna say, did anybody else find the Shay scene hilarious? Because where did they get that dress? And did like hair grow out of her
The
head?
wig
Or
was
did they
so
put a wig on
bad.
her?
The wig was so bad.
Like,
Oh, and even the wig on Tally was halfway up her
oh,
fucking brain. Like,
yes.
this is her
Yeah.
hair. And then I was like, who? I feel like YouTubers have a better budget than these movies.
Well, they
So I was
all their
wondering, like, are they recovering from surgery for like a long period of time? Like, what is
Mm.
the
Seemingly
bounce
not,
back
because
here?
Shay was
Because
taken in
yeah,
and
right
then,
away. So that I'm also very
we get
confused
but
about.
instant
Like,
then
Well, so
they
when
asked Hallie if she was recovering.
no, they ask
I
how
don't.
your recovery is going, and or I
Oh.
Yeah.
think just to like establish a baseline, like, hey, did we do anything wrong? Did we fuck up? Because like once again, maybe we need to do something. Because Cable said, oh, there's always some who need more, right? And that's like
Mm.
Yeah.
so they're seeing a
oh,
baseline, but then also for it's a digitized like it's an augmented reality world if you didn't notice So when Tally first broke into the city and then she wore the mask, she also
I was
gained
gonna
a
ask
dress.
about that. Like,
Yeah,
how
she
does the
gained a
mask
dress and
work?
everything like materialized. I think that was like so normally you would have access to the AR because they do have everything's like it's a very tech world. So I think normally if you got the surgery, you'd have access to the available AR, which would be like the mask you put it on, whatever. Because she finds the mask, which was part of the party, someone threw it off, and then she puts on the mask, and that's when I think she like took that person's dress. So like whatever that person was wearing, like
That makes
whatever they
sense.
decided, that would be the
Mhm.
outfit that came on because it's not like her face changed. I thought when she put on the mask and everything started materializing around her, I thought she was gonna be enhanced as well,
Right.
but then she didn't enhance it, and it was just the clothes. And when she stripped it off, it like all went away.
Mm.
So I think the same thing
Just like a
happened for
cost.
Shay. Was
Okay.
like it's just like augmented reality.
Yeah, which is interesting. See, there's something alluring about that. If you guys ever watch like Fifth Element or any of these like futuristic kind of movies, there's always a dystopian attitude about it. There's always like a ickiness about like this move into like hyper technology and what it looks like, and everyone's afraid of Elon Musk's robots and all this AI stuff is freaking everybody out. And the truth is like it will be what it is, but I can't imagine it's any worse than destroying the Library of Alexandria. Like I can't imagine it's like any worse than destroying anything else throughout history. We're just gonna adapt and move past it or we're not. But I think the movie does still pose that question about is the illusion of the free thinker thinking I wouldn't have done that in history when we repeat cycles consistently. So it doesn't matter even this idea of like, look at climate change right now. People are begging for us to like look at climate change and we're like, nah. And I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. Like, I guess this is it. And like, we're sitting here going through hurricane after hurricane and it's right in front of us. But also I think it feels so much bigger than us. Like fixing society is a very big ask of humanity. And so it is like a very big ask of us. And so I think the movie kind of simplifies like, why fix society when you can just be pretty? And I'm like, you know what? Great points. Great points.
I was gonna say the biggest question I had was about parenting in this universe, because we saw that Tally's parents dropped her off at the dorms or the school or whatever when she was about 6, 7, 8-ish.
Yeah.
What did the parenting look like before
Oh.
then? Do the parents live with the kids in the
Yes.
dorms for like 6 years? And in which case, like me and my fiance looked at each other and we were like, oh, so we just have to parent for like 7 years, then we drop the kid off and go back to party hardy until they turn 16? Like, okay.
I think it was no, you dropped off for 4 years. That's how long the schooling is for, right?
Oh.
Am I
Oh,
wrong
so it's like
about
Well,
when you're
to
12
16?
then.
Because 4 years, so it's 12 to 16, I believe, because I heard 4 years consistently. It's a 4-year
Okay.
program. It's a
So what about their
Oh.
12-year life before that? Where are they
Yeah,
living?
so
Yeah.
parents
so that's what I was
doing
gonna say. So it's
kind
kind
of
of
a
like it
hedonistic
makes you
lifestyle
think
are they
about.
living?
Yeah, so I think there is freedom in the like the pretty world, right? Because people are having kids. Usually the idea is if you're successful and you're like the smarter you are, the more successful you are, the less kids you have. But so like in this world, people are still opting to have kids. In their ideal perfect world,
I
they get
want
to
to know
have
what's the
kids.
incentive there. Yeah, it's interesting.
So
Yeah,
I
what
think
is
it's
the
like
incentive to have
one,
kids?
maybe like
And
they allow
then
just enough to keep society going and humanity going. So like just enough free thought of like, hey, some people will allow them to like want kids. And then two, I
also, what
think
does
the reason
pregnancy look like?
it's
Mhm.
probably gorgeous. It's probably like an amazing
Right?
pregnancy.
Like, is it the
Or
best
yeah,
pregnancy ever?
but so the only two things, the two questions I was wondering was one, how come these kids, if we're so far into the future and this is kind of like norm, how come the kids aren't just born like pretty, right? Evolution should take place. But then my second thing was saying is like, why aren't they just doing surgeries on kids? And then maybe it's because they think kids are already like super cute and like perfect as they are. Like maybe there's a saving grace to these people's like
Maybe they want
empathy.
them
They're
to go
like,
through puberty first,
I was gonna
though,
say, but
before
they
they
still make them
do.
go through puberty.
I think they
Mhm.
think kids
That's
are
like the
beautiful. I want
ugliest time.
to give them a little bit
Right.
of like a little bit of humanity where they're like, no, kids
Yeah.
are beautiful the way they are.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
know.
Her
Like,
parents
I
were
just
like,
want to
"You're
give
ugly
like there
ass."
is the humanity in this culture. That's what I want to know.
Their parents were like, you're gonna be so much cuter without those squinty eyes.
Hey,
Which
so
was
is she like
they
living
did.
her first 12 years of life with like her parents just constantly like shitting
I
all
think
over her squinty eyes and like
so. And
other
also,
challenge?
I didn't notice anybody with siblings. So maybe there's like a one
Oh,
child situation.
interesting.
And then the other question I have, do they not have the graduation ceremony literally every single day? Because like people can have a birthday.
Yeah, like they were
day.
like,
Well,
"Hey,
there's
today's your
fireworks almost
16th
every night,
birthday," and a
though.
bunch of people.
Yeah,
Right.
every day there's a
Yeah.
ceremony.
Yeah, every day,
Every
right?
day there's
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's
That's
multiple people
fair.
every day, so that's leading
Yeah.
to a lot of people. If we're having multiple people turn 16
Yeah.
every single day, 365 days a year, this is a pretty big population.
Yeah. Also,
Okay,
I loved
I
her
think-
parents. I thought they were hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
they
Well,
were.
and
They were like,
also-
Well, because
mean-
it's a guarantee, right? It's not like you said you didn't say anything bad. You're like, hey, you go to 4 years of this school, and then you're gonna be fucking perfect anyway. So I can't
Yeah.
wait for this to be done. Like, yeah,
Well, it's just like any culture, right? Like that's how we pass down the societal desires that are implanted in us. It's like, okay, this is what you do. This is how women are happy. Women are happy as mothers and at home with the kids, you know.
Right.
So that's what you want to do, right? Like this is how you will be
Mhm.
happy and how you will live a fulfilled life as a woman. And someone like me as a younger person, that's what I literally did legit think that I wanted. So I could see it being like the same thing in this kind of a world. It's like, no, this is the way. This is the way you're going to be happy, and the parents really think it. They think they're doing right by their child. The kids feel the vibes of like, oh, my parents are really loving me by saying this, and so they just go. Anyway, I can
Shay-
see it.
Shay proved that though. So like at the end when like Shay got turned, she looked at everyone. She's like, hey, you guys are kind of like acting crazy and paranoid. Like, why wouldn't you want this? I feel great. Right? Like, and then everyone's like, oh, we shouldn't force her to come back. It's like, wait, why don't you want to force her to come back if you think that it's better to not be that
I
way?
liked that though. I was like,
the
I liked
ending.
the consent part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they
like-
wanted
that
to be.
too.
I get it, but is she consenting though? Because like technically
Exactly,
speaking, if
that's why-
your
Right, we don't
belief
know.
is that isn't what is that because like
Because she didn't consent to the surgery in the first
Yeah.
place. She was
And
forced
Tally-
to
And what
do
does
Right.
it
surgery.
say about
Yeah.
like transformative experiences and like how they change us? Like even
Mhm.
trauma is a transformative experience.
Mhm.
It changes how we think.
Mhm,
So like,
mhm.
oh, what does that say about our agency? And when do we actually have full agency?
Which is
But then
why
they would have
timeline.
re-traumatized her if they forced the cure upon her. So that I did appreciate that about David's mom's. What was her name? Naya was Dr. Cable. Dr. Cable's Naya. What was the mom's name? I don't know, but
David's mom.
she
David's mom. is
David's
so-
mom. What a lovely character. Also, okay,
Yes, she is.
David fighting over Tally hours perhaps after his father was killed because of Tally was just
Well,
All
she's
right.
the only one. We need her. We clearly we need her. She made it here alone. Why they kind of like made her the one super instantly. We need her around. They kept reiterating that. And even the guy that hated her after a while was like, I was wrong about you. It's like, no, you weren't.
Oh, yeah,
Bro.
no, Corley
No, you
or
weren't. You were
whatever,
right about
base
everything.
Character, so sus of her the whole time. I love him. And then at the
Oh,
end,
he did not need any pretty surgery. That one, the suspicious one, who was
Love
like,
it.
Yes.
Bro.
that guy
I want to know
was.
more about him. I hope that they go more into him. He's like, one of those characters that's
Yeah.
actually interesting.
No,
'cause-
Tally
Right,
was
there
like,
could be more depth.
bro, the moment David looked at Tally, I was like, what in the snow bunny is happening right now? I was like, I do not know what's going on. But okay, but then I have to ask the question. I mean this with no disrespect, of course. What is up with that like white woman protagonist story where like these little girls come in and they're like, I got it. I'm like, you don't got nothing. You don't even
Yeah, like
you
who
got
the
nothing.
fuck is she to be a hero?
No wisdom, no knowledge, totally naive. And I'm like, how is this helpful?
If anything, you
that.
fucked everything up.
Literally.
Yeah, agree. She is the worst.
She did. She did fuck everything up.
Yeah,
Because
She's
the
not-
most helpful thing she could have done is once she realized, oh shit, this necklace is a liability. This necklace has been a liability from the beginning.
And she did it out of emotion, not wisdom. She was just like, oh,
right. Typical teenage girl.
I thought like it's weird now that I'm. I
and
mean,
also,
we're-
how old is David? How the fuck old is David to
Good
be the
question.
like?
Yes,
The
I thought he was a
good
grown
question.
man
Yeah.
until I saw
Yeah, that's
him and they were making out, and then I realized he's a love interest. But then,
Like
but
17.
then it was funny because like a 16 to 18-year-old boy being the leader of a
Exactly,
rebellion is
There's
just
something
Yeah.
that doesn't quite At the very
These
least,
are
it's a
hu-
power differential that I don't
But like, what a
like.
fantasy we sell to
Right.
people. Like, I mean, I think even Avatar: The Last Airbender is about. It's a show about children, but I think the way they did it so much better is they like made it clear these are kids. They made it clear like these are children who throw tantrums and they get mad at each other, and it takes the adults in their life to guide them in a direction of wisdom. Versus like in this movie and all stories that are in this particular genre, I think it is purely for the fantasy. And now that I'm in my 30s, obviously I look at this, I'm like, you're 16, sit down. But then a part of me is just like, oh, this is so, I would have eaten this shit up when I was young. I read all these young adult novels as a kid because, of course, you want to be, you want to be wise and you want to be old and you want to know what's going on in the world. But the older I get, the less I realize I know. And then that makes me go, okay, I definitely couldn't save the world, let alone a 16-year-old who doesn't know even what's going on. A 16-year-old, by the way, who's swayed every time someone talks to her. Like, she has no
And
grounding.
she was such a bad spy too. Every time she's like,
Oh.
"Yeah, so you guys are building like weapons, right? That's what you're doing."
She's like, what's that about?
She's like, "Yeah,
Tell me
we
more.
make, what do you do with the rails?" Well, we make bowls and forks. She's like, weapons too, right? Well, no, we don't really do it. And the way she's sneaking around
Technically,
was just like,
theoretically, yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
was
yeah, and then
confused about
I
where her
hated-
mindset was at that whole time now that you've pointed it out. Ali, sorry to
No.
interrupt. I was going to say like it's so we get like that flashback of Dr. Cable going, people will believe what they want to believe. And so it's like, okay, is Maddie doing all this from that perspective or
Mm.
is she being authentic with this group? And then we don't really see that, I guess, until she does the necklace. And then she tells David she did something bad, doesn't tell him what it is. So then everyone can't prepare to respond to the situation.
Not helpful. Not helpful at all.
When you said
So I wish I
Maddie,
knew
did
her
you mean
mindset.
Tally? Because
Oh,
Maddie's the
not
mom,
Maddie,
David's
Tally,
mom.
Tally. Maddie is
Okay,
the
Tally.
mom.
Yeah, Tally. Okay, just making sure.
Tally.
Yeah.
Tally.
Yeah.
And I get what they were writing for her. So she was supposed to be going to save Shay, right? But I absolutely hated that her hero's journey, like her growing and learning to do things on her own, and like finding the shadow, the smoke
Mhm.
on her own, was like all in efforts to like fuck them over, right? It just kind of felt
Yeah.
weird that like the whole reason that she's the one is because no one's ever done this journey by
Also,
themselves. It's like, why?
How is
like,
a bubble child who lived in synthetic society so good at camping and MREs and
Well, she
rock
wasn't.
climbing
Did you
without
see how
proper
dirty she was?
equipment?
She wasn't good. Didn't you see how dirty her hair got by
But
the time she
that
got
was like that was an outdoor freaking V12 probably, and she didn't have climbing shoes, no harness, no belayer, no system, just
She's just a
casually rock
natural.
climbing the mountain. Like, okay.
she was like it was a flat wall that she was climbing. Okay, there was like
Yeah.
no grip. She drops her backpack, which would have been, honestly, that's where she would have carried the note, which would
She was
have been
free
that little
soloing
bag.
it. She was
Yeah,
free soloing it.
it was so much. And then, but no, her whole thing was like, no, I used to sneak out of the academy all the
Right.
time. That's how she got to, because the initial the opening scene was her sneaking out of the building and
Right.
climbing up to the roof, which was like foreshadowing that she's
Yeah,
like she's
yeah,
an
yeah.
outdoorsy,
Well,
like
okay.
she's a rebel.
Rule
She's a
breaker.
rebel. She hacks
Yeah.
the
It was
codes.
okay.
and
That
so
was the problem. Is like they painted her as this naive, like doe-like character, and also very badass. I'm like, make a decision.
yeah. That's
Make
why I
a
didn't like it. I was
decision.
like,
She knew all the hacks and she broke the rules and snuck out and stuff, but was still a total lackey for the
Yo,
system.
she jumped off a building with like the security guys coming at her.
Right.
I'm like, are you a rule follower who wants to be pretty, or are you like a rebel who doesn't care? And then when Shay and her started to bond, I was like, oh, so they're like falling in love over their rebellion. And then I was like, wait, they're not falling in love? And I was like, okay, now I'm just very. And then Shay was like, come and join my like cult, basically. And I was like, oh, wait, what's happening? And so part of it did feel like it felt like a movie that didn't know what it was trying to tell us, I think. But I think it's just the way they filmed it. Too fast, rushed through all the scenes. I didn't have time to like anybody or hate anybody. I just didn't know what was going on. I kept losing track of the story a little bit where I was like, who's what? And then a part of me just couldn't get over the initial pretty party because I was like, that looks kind of fun.
this would have been a better TV series than movie series.
Oh,
I
I could see
agreed.
that.
But then Netflix would cancel it, and then they would never get an ending. So
True.
I think
So if they
We
did,
would've
if they
just
dropped
had
like
one
10
season.
episodes and the first 3 episodes is like in between, blah blah blah, and we get to see the smoke, but then the next 3 episodes is like the
Mm.
life in this, like this, that would have been better, like a better like mini series or like a TV series, because it was super rushed. And honestly, when are they going to drop the next movie? right? In
Who
like 2-3
knows?
years when it's
Literally.
like, dude, this movie wasn't
No,
good enough to
yeah.
hold me for 2-3 years.
No, no, no.
It's
Right.
Bro, I'm
not
hesitating even
that.
watching Squid Games, and only because like if it was COVID again, I'd be watching Squid Games 100% because that was such a vibe. Like
Man.
shut down, my
Mhm.
brothers and I hanging out, weed, Squid Games, what a vibe. Now I'm like, I'm busy, I'm working, I can't just sit down and watch Squid Games.
Or
And
like
like that's
Euphoria.
oh
Did any of you watch
no, see,
Euphoria?
I skipped all of
Mhm.
Euphoria, but even that, I was like, should I go back and rewatch these things and catch up with everybody? But I'm like, I can't even imagine doing it now, but then maybe.
Euphoria was good, but like I think the last time I watched it was like 2 or 3 years ago. It's like you can't do 3 years in between a series. Like
Yeah.
you can't do that. And so for a movie like this, which like Brittany to your point, like it was so rushed. But then also they either have to tell the whole story or they could only tell like what feels like 10% of the story. This doesn't feel
Yeah.
like 25% of a series. Right? I feel like I got nothing out of it. I didn't see any of I didn't see enough of either world because like we don't know how long. Well, first of all, is if David's the leader of this rebellion, like did it start with him, or was it like there were
Right.
other people and then he just becomes the leader because he's
It
like the
apparently
tallest?
started with his parents, in which
Mhm.
case, why aren't they the leader? Like, why
Thank
isn't
you.
he the
Right.
leader
If
in
Well, he's
he's
young
training?
still
Oh my
alive,
God.
then why is he? Yeah, that
Well,
doesn't
because
make
the hero
sense.
has to be 16 or else like we don't, or 17 or else
But
we
then-
don't get like
We
a
lose our
cohesive
audience.
story.
I almost wish he was a grown man, but then I guess then he wouldn't be the love interest because then that would be
Right.
creepy. So they
At least
had to
not
make
yet.
it just
Mhm.
absolutely unbelievable that like a 16-year-old is that established politically. And also we saw like an old ass man in the smoke. I'm just confused like why people aren't
They're
deferring
just
to
manning
the elders in
helicopters.
their community.
Yeah.
Just
Why is
manning helicopters and flamethrowers and okay, that
in
scene where
what
they were
world
in the
is this
city
16-year-old really running things? Like, no.
in the scene where they were fighting the city. I'm sorry, I don't know what kind of flamethrower they had, but this thing just shot through all the glass, busted all the machinery. I was like, that's not how that is not how
Yeah, like how
flamethrowers work.
thin are
This
those
is-
windows? How thin
This
are
is
the
a
windows
future
in this
flamethrower, you
Yeah.
guys.
security?
It's
But
It's
these are
just a
future
orchid
windows in a
napalm.
future.
yeah, no, it doesn't make
basically,
sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Windows.
And the whole book thing, so that's what made me like realize that the synthetic thing. They were like so excited to read a book, which to us, I guess like you're supposed to watch this movie and be like, wow, that is such an amazing thing. Like they have a book in this society, and it's like, I don't think anyone would have given an iota of a fuck about that. Outside of like maybe like, oh, I would have never been able to read Thoreau outside of this. But then like I guess they use that book as like a reference to like, oh well, that's what the smoke is like, is people are living in a world and you get to grow your own vegetables in the sunshine and the but I
Oh
don't
yeah. Wait, they used an author from our reality
Mhm.
to reference
Yeah,
it.
that was
Oh, now I'm like having
Yeah,
a
Neil
realization.
David
I'm like,
Thoreau.
wait.
a weird way of them to do it, honestly. The book
Everyone
thing
thinks they're
threw me for a loop
1984,
a little
bro.
bit.
I swear everybody,
Mhm.
progressive, conservative artists, they all feel like they wrote 1984, and it's not even that good of a book. Brave New World is way better and much more apt
I was
to
just
like.
gonna say,
Isn't it much more relatable to this story? Like Brave New World is like
Brave New
you're-
World is
it's way
more
better.
realistic.
it's way more
Yeah,
realistic. And
too.
honestly, I remember in high school the teacher asking us like, how many of you would take a pill and live in Brave New World, and how many of you would want to live in our world? And it was about half and half. And I think both answers are valid. Like I think this idea of like, I want to be a free thinker for 70 years. No, you don't. You get all your information from Facebook. You do not care about being a free thinker. Also, in terms of storytelling, I just looked it up. This could be wrong, but this movie has a running time of 1 hour and 42 minutes. Jurassic Park, the original, says 127 minutes, and that was a story. Like, I know you can tell me a story in 100, in 27 minutes. So what was this?
Right.
Yeah.
They did have enough time if they had used it better, if they had maybe edited or done the cuts
They
better.
fast forwarded through time so much. It's not like they basically wrote this
They
thing
could
in
have
like a week. They just
skipped
focused
out
all
the
the scenery.
hoverboarding. Skip
Yeah.
the
Right.
hoverboarding
Why are they
montage.
hoverboarding all the fucking time? You're wasting
Yeah.
time. You could have been showing other things about the
Ugh.
world that were way more
That
important.
reminds me of how bad the acting was. Ugh.
And the dialogue, yes.
Ugh.
The acting, the dialogue, the chemistry was just not on screen.
Like, it sounded almost real, but it was like gave me Uncanny Valley or something. The acting was just
Yeah, like something was not quite right. It was
yeah,
close, but not.
yeah. Like they were trying too hard to be casual or something. I
I
don't
do
know.
think that is the movie made for kids kind of
Yeah,
acting and
Mhm.
dialogue
yeah,
in
that
Right.
makes sense.
general.
Mm.
Yeah,
Like, let's show
But
them
that's not
who
to say that
evil's in the
yeah.
muhahaha, not in like the action,
Yeah.
but it's in the tone of what they're saying, and they were very
Yeah.
like blunt. Like when Cable was telling Tally like, so we're gonna send you back to the city and back to the academy. It's like you're being very deliberate, like this person's evil, and then Tally's just sitting there like either you're manipulated or you just don't see that the person's because like Tally believed that David was like technically like evil and trying to fight against the city. That is what she full-heartedly believed. But it's like the way Cable was speaking is like how did you believe anything she was saying?
It wasn't very persuasive or like
Like at
convincing
all. She was like,
ultimately,
"Hey, I'm gonna
but
send you back. You're not gonna get to become a pretty. Like I'm gonna single you out. Like there's a lot going into like what is and then you know
And
what when I just
oh,
want to know
sorry.
who decided like what the standard was, like who gets to decide like okay, so this is pretty enough and
yeah.
this
That's what
isn't
I.
pretty enough.
Mm.
But like, how do they know what pretty is if no one is actually
It
gonna?
right. And
seems
then
like they have some form of choice because she was like,
right.
should I choose my left side symmetry or my right side symmetry? Which, by the way, would look very creepy. But like, they give you some choices. So it's not even, I think it's not even like the result of the surgery that people care about. It's the fact that you got the surgery and got into the club. I mean, like, obviously the superficial things like hair color and eye color, like they leave preferential. But the fact that she was talking about like left and right side symmetry and she would get to pick, and then also you get to pick what scars or deformities to keep or not keep, like we saw with her hand. So it
Yeah.
seems like it's pretty customizable. Like you get to customize your
They
avatar, which I mean,
And
okay,
then they
cool,
made a
sign me
point
up.
to say like it's everybody's best version of themselves, right? Like isn't that supposed to be the so it's
Yeah.
like however you think you would look your absolute best, but then how come everybody in the pretty world looks like an Instagram filter, like the same Instagram filter?
Yeah, that TikTok glam
I'm fail
filter, legit the same.
I'm
Yeah,
failing
that's
to
what
see
it
the
looked like.
evil.
Yeah.
Maybe this is like I missed where's the evil in the world that's like where's the presented evil outside of like it's not natural, or is that supposed to be the evil?
Well, it's the brain lesions, I think. Like to
Yeah, that
Yeah.
they're
me, it's
forced. Yeah,
the
they're
specifically being lobotomized, but not
Dumbed
knowing you're being
down.
lobotomized.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty
yeah,
evil.
Hmm.
issue. Yeah.
But
Okay, who do you think wrote this book, a man or a woman?
I can't answer that because I know the answer.
I feel like the way I watched the movie, it feels like a guy wrote this,
Mm,
but
I have no
trying to
idea.
appeal to like a young female audience.
Yeah, my guess was woman because all the YA books I read, for the most part, were written by women growing up. So I was like, okay, it's probably a Stephanie Meyer. It's a man,
Figured, yeah.
and that's
It seems
interesting
like
to
it,
me.
'cause this is what I would write. This is what I would write for like a young female audience. I'd be
Shut
like, this is a
up.
world. This is a okay. Like, because this is for me. I'm like, yeah, this is a world where like if I was writing a story for like young girls, let's focus it on there's the pretties and the uglies, but then you want to be part of the uglies because natural is more beautiful and frown lines and like this whole thing and like you're trying to push this like I'm writing a story for my daughter.
Yeah, like don't get a boob job, no fake lips. Natural
Yeah.
is actually better. I actually prefer
Right,
women who are
right.
natural.
So if anything, let me show you how
I bet that would happen in that world.
how
To be honest.
how
Sure.
shallow and how shallow and bullshit. Like the pretties are fucking stupid, right? They have no social. They have no thought. That's the whole thing. Is like they did paint. They painted an IG model. That's what they made the pretties. They made the pretties IG models. And this was like me writing a story for my daughter. And like, hey, look, you don't want to be an IG model. This is exactly what it felt like.
Oh, I could see that
Yeah.
perspective. Yeah. Yeah.
I
That- I
felt
think
like
that's
that
part
was
of what I didn't like
supposed to
about
be
it.
the
They were trying-
takeaway. Like
And
if
like
I
what better way to
they're
do it than with the
pigeonholing you into
like the main character Tally is the most normal, good-looking person like ever. She's just normal.
normal.
Yeah.
But she's also good
No.
like good looking.
Mhm.
I was gonna say it's the
So it's
movie of the
just
Midwest. Like I was like, this is what just people look like. Like this is just
Mhm.
like what averagey people look like. You know what I mean? But I think most people are like fives. Like most people are just average. Like literally 4, 5,
Mhm.
6s. Like it's not like we're all sitting here trying to be supermodels. Like we're a product of our genetics. Like at the end of the day, like growing up and being raised like this perfect, like that's why they stand out. That's why like naturally gorgeous people catch all of our eye because we're like, what happened? What the fuck did you drink growing up that made you like okay? So I understand the aspiration to be like this particular aesthetic or to be like a pretty, but I think it's the ease of what the being a pretty promises you, which is false. But so is the falsehood of being a free thinker. Like I think there's like pros and cons in both. And it just feels like that's all of reality is like there's no perfect world. Like as a person who doesn't live in America, I get asked all the time like, did you like is it like a beautiful place? Is it like it's the same. It's the same everywhere. It's just different. It's like some things are good, some things are bad. Nowhere is perfect. And I think the illusion of the movie is that it implies that there is a good choice. And I'm not sure there is one.
Yes. And
That's
that's
like
what I was anybody's utopia, somebody else's dystopia.
For sure.
Like
yeah.
Mhm.
there's no
That's why I wanted
like
the
it,
nuance. Like
yeah.
show
Yeah.
me,
Mhm.
yeah, show me the
I
I
think
utopia
Hunger
really
Games
had
does
to.
that
on both
very
sides.
well though.
Yeah.
Hunger Games did
I,
that very well. Like for a
I
YA
agree.
situation. Yeah. So I keep bringing up
This
Hunger
one
Games just because
really,
yeah.
they do it better. This one really just required me to lean into like, imagine that you are in the like target demographic age and don't try to dig too deep for the nuance. Like just
True.
take it
Mhm.
at its simple, kind of on the nose lesson, which to Allie's point, you don't want to always just get all the plastic surgeries and try to look like an Instagram filter and all of that. Like I could
But
see
did
that
they
if I was
succeed in that?
watching this as a young teen, right? Like that's just the takeaway is leave it
Do
at
you
that.
do you think they succeeded in that lesson though, really?
Which
No,
lesson?
I don't think so though,
The
because
straightforward lesson that they're trying to teach that, oh,
Oh,
pursuing beauty is bad and like
Nope.
yeah,
no, because
I
she
don't think
ends
they
up,
did either.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think
Because
that that's
I'm
ultimately like
trying
an
to think about
effective.
it. Like, how
Yeah,
lobotomized are
I
the
agree.
pretties? I feel like they have a lot of like. There's a lot of things where it's like it wouldn't blend into a society where you could only have people that were you were completely in control of. It kind of feels like they enjoy. So I guess the thing is you control them to think they're enjoying it. But okay, so if you're having kids and then they're growing up like normal, and then they're looking around in the society and they're like, well, I want this, right? What's the like you don't know any alternative, right? You grow up in an academy and you know that the world around you is like gone to shit. Like maybe they're not taking away agency. Maybe this is just like what these people prefer. I don't know if these I don't, like have we is it confirmed that they're lobotomized?
Maddie, that's what David's mom says based on their research that there were like brain lesions that were part of the surgery as a rule. So they aren't it's not necessary to get the pretty result, but they do it to almost like
Well,
sedate you. I have a theory that it's probably just giving you like one standard deviation less of whatever IQ you started with
mm,
and just
But
maybe like
yeah, not a
so
full
does
lobotomy
something to your
my thing
situation.
is
Like,
yeah.
I think it's just like if because this movie is really like eugenics based, right? So it's really what it is. It's they figured out the hierarchy thing or the competitive thing. Like that's the only thing I felt like was removed because for oh well Paris when he saw like Tally, he knew who she was. He just didn't seem to like care, and he's like, "Hey, when you get here, you'll understand. Like the things are just a little bit different." And I think for like it could be that he just realized like, "Oh, she's gonna be here in 2 months. I don't need to go talk to her. In 2 months, she'll figure that like she'll figure it out on her own. She'll realize like it would be kind of a waste for me to go. It's maybe a little bit even mean to go tell someone like 2 months before they're getting out of like class, like, hey, this is such a great life. She already wanted to be like that so bad and to the point where she snuck into the city, you know? And then like when Cable was talking to him, he said like it felt like, it felt like the old me, and I like that feeling. Right? So it's like I don't know that these people are like so far gone. And like if once again, if you're having kids, which is a pretty like insane decision in this world, Like, and it seems like people are bungee jumping or whatever it may be. I don't know. Like, I don't know how far gone these people are.
I mean, if we're having sort of like a more serious, thoughtful conversation about the idea, I think it's clear that it feels like your friend joined a cult you didn't get to go to and you want to go there, but you saw like an insight into the cult, and like him rejecting her feels so anti his own character that now she has to question the cult. Like, why is my friend so different after joining this cult that I was promised was so good? And I think like it's somewhat of that, like somewhat of that feeling, and I think that's how everyone feels on a spectrum when their kids like leave and they vote differently or join a different religion. Like, how many people look at Muslim countries and think no one's happy, they don't really want to be there, they're being forced? It's like, okay, not everybody is being forced. Like, some people like it, some people who are born into that bubble, yeah, they want to leave and it's hard because they have to choose between their family and other people. We all have that happen. If you're the rebel in your family, you have to make that decision, like, do I leave everyone I know and do something different? But also, the thing I take away from this is a reminder that, you know, hell is other people. And that if it was just me living in the world, like, it'd be very different of a feeling. Like, the person who comes in and ruins the smoke is a person, right? It's Tally. The person who ruins the beauty is Tally. Like, she's a person. She's ruining the illusion. And so I think in some ways the lesions represent a need for society to run efficiently by getting everybody on the same page, which of course takes away the nuance of your individuality. Like, the reason the world can't work the way it is because we are truly individuals. And then the irony of that is, like, in order to make society work, we have to put some of that aside and compromise as a community to make society move forward. Like, we don't individually choose what color, like, light to stop at. We all choose red. Red is the light. We stop at red. I'm dependent on you to follow the rules. And so we kind of, you know, I think the irony of humans is, like, we have yet to accept that all of us as individuals compromise with society in order to have a reliability with each other. And then some people take it too far and some people don't take it far enough. And it's all about having that balance between the individual and that society member.
But then is it better to have like a smaller society where there is one person in control if everyone's happy, and their needs are met? That's like, because you guys were talking about like where's the communisty aspect of it, and I think that's like that that's where they were hinting at it where they could, which was like, well, these people all seem happy, and the person in control was like, well, I get to decide what their like happiness is, and there are some people who get to decide what happiness is and isn't, and we've decided that this is like the best for the collective use. Like, no one, once again, I don't think anyone was working, but they do have scientists because someone has to control these machines, someone has to come up with serums, someone has to do things. So there are people who are like, I guess their perfection is like also they're super smart, right? But for the average person, what is perfect for the average person? Well, they just want to live a life of like leisure and party and, like, you know, like, hey, I feel great.
Yeah. I think that's hard for us to accept. I think that's something that I focus on in my work is, like, you have to accept that some people just don't want to live like you. They want to live like this. And this idea is hard for people. They're like, no, like, if they knew better, they wouldn't live like this. Oh, you think it's better, but for you and them, it's just like, this is what works for them. I do think genuinely, I think that some communities probably would work better with that. Some people would just want the ease of it. I think that's why I think like a universal basic income kind of works, because genuinely, like, if you need assistance, it's better to house people and feed people and give people care than it is to force them to all be these like entrepreneurs that they were never going to be anyways. Like, those of us who are already going to do it, we're going to do it. And the people who aren't, they shouldn't be homeless. Like, we should be able to support them. And then they're not going to go around robbing people or doing horrible things to people because their basic needs are met. So it's kind of like, I feel like society isn't willing to admit, like, not everyone's going to be this entrepreneur. Like, some people are just going to be chilling, and that's good. Let them chill, bro. But it's this idea. I think it's hard for people to imagine that, like, somebody would want a life I wouldn't want.
Mm-hmm. So lack of like maybe empathy or like epistemic humility. You know, like, my way and my worldview is the right one, and everyone else's is disturbing to me, and I'm gonna like literally fight against it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder for the smoke people, are they like anarcho-primitivist? Like, because let's say they get rid of Dr. Cable. Okay, what are you going to be using for fuel and or electricity if you get rid of this orchid? And then if you like have a limit, like if you plant this orchid kind of like you plant mint, where you like have it has its own container because mint is it kills everything else if you
Invasive.
plant it in the ground. Yeah, so you plant this orchid in like these beds. Will that be enough to power the population? Is there something else you're coming up with? Or are people living like they're in the 1700s again? Like, what
And
is
you're
the
forcing
goal?
everybody to learn those skills and like
Yeah.
join them on
Exactly.
their cushy life. Yeah.
I wonder if
Like,
they
is that
really,
really a wise reaction, or is it just the pendulum swinging? You know,
if
It
they, if,
doesn't-
sorry, Maiden, go.
oh, it doesn't feel wise. Yeah. Mhm.
I wonder if they could take all the pretty people and take all the ugly people and start them again at zero. See, again, I'm a little frustrated with society recently because I'm like, why do we keep trying to reinvent the wheel? We already did this 100 years ago, but I know everyone forgets. And so we have to retest because like, that's what happens. Everyone forgets people are like, why do people have to go to high school? I'm like, because we tried not having a basic education standard and then we forced it through the law because we realized it was better. But I know that they can't remember. So now everyone's like unschooling their kids. And I'm like, everybody relax. Okay. But I think it's a reaction to, like we forget why we implement a rule. It's kind of like, have you ever done that? I've done that in my life so many times where I'm like, why am I eating healthy? And I'm like, no, we remember. Because like you do almost forget after a while, like, why did I implement this rule into my life? And I think that that's kind of what's happened. So if we could take the pretties and the uglies together and get them back on ground zero, how many of them would choose to be pretty and be perfectly happy with that forever? No lesions. Let's say no lesions. See, but if you don't have the lesions, I don't know. Okay, can we just be... This is maybe...
I mean, yeah, why the
You
lesions?
need the
I'm
lesions.
so
You have to have the lesions.
confident.
No, the lesions keep them
but if you
cohesive
don't-
because the lesions keep
Yeah, you
them
have to have
from
the
rebelling.
lesions.
But then you can give them the choice
Right.
to stay pretty or to go back to being ugly.
Yeah. Yeah,
But then
it's like if you
they would have
wanna be
different
part of this-
governments. They couldn't live under one government, right?
Yeah,
Is
they
that the
couldn't live-
idea?
Yeah, they couldn't live in. Yeah. Because like the people with the lesions are like, hey, like I'm supposed to have a pretty chill life. Like I kind of
They're
just
not.
I'm in the mix. I chose the blue pill. I'm choosing this life. You chose the red pill. You want to know what's going. I'm choosing pretty privilege. You're choosing individuality. Like that's
Mm.
kind of what's happening. And so like no, the lesions are necessary because once again, anytime you talk about eugenics, it always goes like, okay, we're gonna cure all the like medical ailments. Well, all right, cool. Well, then once we cure the medical ailments, we can cure just like the physical shit, right? We can just make people like look cool and physically fit, and then all right, cool. But then what's gonna be the great divide is like,
Mhm.
well, okay, what's the best look? What's the best skin preference? It's always gonna be some type of hierarchy
Right.
until you remove that like mental thing from humans
True.
where it's like, hey, you don't have to have a hierarchy. Just fucking don't. So you have to have.
Don't
the
even
lesions,
think
which is-
about it.
Which is
Yeah,
kind of
it-
where I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I don't know if the side is evil. It's like that's what you have to do. You wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. I get where the control aspect is evil, like the person who's in charge and they feel like they're evil, or we feel like they're evil because like, who are you to decide? But it's like if we look at humans, we kind of always put one person, like we seem
Totally.
to put a few
We
people in
do
charge.
the hierarchy thing,
decide.
yeah.
Yeah,
we
Yeah.
always do that.
seems
So it's
to
like
be our
they're-
default.
And they
we're
don't
all-
believe you when you don't. They don't believe you.
There's
That's
an
why.
there's an adaptive thing about the hierarchy. I think we
Yeah.
need to do that wisely.
Yeah,
not,
well,
maybe
that's-
not just throw it out.
That's why if you look at if you look at Luffy as an antagonist or a protagonist, or you look at Goku, or you look at any of these like main characters in anime who do not care about the hierarchies, who do not care about the competition, who are only here like for their like people don't believe them because they're not really real. Like even me, I'll get commentary from people who are like, why don't you care about this thing? And I was like, I don't care about this thing like you do, but I care about this thing. But see, they don't believe me because they're like, everyone cares about this. And I was like, no. Lots of people care about this, but also lots of people care about the thing I care about. But it is hierarchy. It's just like a different, like, it's like the nerds and the jocks deciding who the king of the whatever is. It's like the jocks go for like muscles and athleticism, and the nerds go for intelligence and knowledge. And then they're like, everyone has it. Like, even if you watch the fact that I say I love anime, trust me, the kids come into my DMs. They're like, how many animes have you even seen? I was like, okay, what is it? Like, are you playing? Is it a competition?
Mhm.
And it is. Everything is a competition. So that's why even in my marriage, the rule is like we don't compete against each other because we're both competitive. So like none of us will let up. Let me tell you. So it's like we are. If you are competitive, you're competitive, and I think everyone is secretly competitive. Even people who don't say they're competing mentally, they are because they're scrolling and being jealous and envious of people on TikTok and Twitter. Like, what is that? What is that? Why do you even care what they're doing if you're not competing, even mentally? Even if you never show up to the game, you're still in the stands boo-hooing. So I do think you have to put the lesions in to get people to be cohesive enough not to question and just to keep going. Because otherwise, eventually someone's going to wake up and be like, what if I did something different? And then that starts to erode at the expectation, which, by the way, is why we always choose to prefer freedom. Even in Brave New World, the preference is to be John, who's kind of like this savage, because at least the savages have a chance to build something specific to them. And as like, you know, a person who's always been sort of like not in the normal, obviously the normal wouldn't work for me, but that's because I don't have the lesions. And if I had the lesions, it would work for me, but I don't have those. So now I'm just in a world where I'm like, what's going on? Like, how do I get the thing you have? But then do you want them if they give it to you? And a lot of us don't choose the lesions. I mean, people give us chances to get along with people. I mean, people show us what to do. They tell us how to dye our hair. They tell us how to dress. They tell us how to fit into society. And then we don't.
What's the difference between lesions and, like, say, enlightenment? Like, why couldn't they just become enlightened instead and then just be, you know what I mean?
It is enlightened.
It's not enlightened. It's the
Is it?
opposite of enlightenment. It's not enlightenment. I
It's
think
like
it's
an ignorance is bliss.
It's an
type
ignorance is
situation.
bliss.
That's what I was saying. Is
Yeah.
like they're just
but that's
that
not
is like
Well,
so
that's
they
what
don't
I'm
have
saying.
to-
Like, what if they instead of lesions, they found out a way to not give them lesions and to enlighten the pretties?
The
You know what I
problem
mean?
with
Then it's like,
enlightenment
oh,
is-
they're still just gonna go along, you know?
The problem with enlightenment is that it's an individual journey. It's not a societal journey. So
Yeah, and you can't- I mean,
individuals move at different
obviously,
paces.
That's like an unrealistic thing to say, but like for
Yeah.
the sake of the story.
But that
it's
is
like-
kind of what's cool about the idea of enlightenment is that it is so individualistic. This idea of like society is going to make it like it's like as if you can force enlightenment on your child. It's such like it's a disrespect to the individual's experience. But I understand in a political world why people are so upset with this individual take because they're like, but if we just work together, working together is an illusion of how deep we can work together. We can all work together well enough. But wanting it to be this ideal utopia, the word utopia is like a fantasy word, right? It's unrealistic.
Mhm.
It's not a real idea. It's a dream. It's an ideal. We have to be realistic and hope for the best. And humanity has adapted over all of these years to be pretty damn good. Not perfect,
Mhm.
but pretty damn good to the point where we are now on a panel on the internet talking about a movie about lesions in the brain because they want to be pretty. Like, that's pretty fucking cool.
See, but I think it is that same aspirational tendency of humans to like hope for the best, to want better, to want to progress, you know? That's the same machinery that gets us mixed up with hierarchies.
Sure.
Because
sure.
it's like putting our ego into the mix of that machinery.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, because I want to get better, I want to be better than I am now. Oh, that means like these people who are at a different level, you know, a different unfolding of their life than I am, who are apples and not a blossom, like they're better. So they're on the top of the hierarchy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That same machinery that makes us want to put a hierarchy onto everything. It's the aspirational machinery, and that's why I think like we do need to like hierarchy wisely. You
Yes.
know, the way that you do that, like try to take the ego out of it and realize it's like about like a personal aspiration of like hoping for that progress, that like you know that next
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
of being. Yeah.
Versus comparing yourself to someone else's journey and progress.
Yeah, but that's difficult too because
But
humans
yeah.
like that's how we learn from the time we're born is we look at our
Right.
parents, we model from our parents, you know? So that even that machinery, that comparing machinery is like so vital to who we are as humans. Like this is why we get in these
It's like-
problems because all this machinery that we have is like essential to like our cognition as humans, but it like fucking causes us to go off the deep end so easily and so quickly.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could-
It's necessary for survival, but it also creates so many other complications.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Could you say in our world, the version of lesions in our world would be sort of similar to like almost like brainwashing in a way? Like where maybe like even conspiracy theory, Jason?
Maybe
I'm sure-
social media.
Maybe
Or
social
just,
media or like
the algorithm, the way it knows you and
It's like
listens
addiction
to
kind
you.
of to me. Yeah, like
Mm.
you know that kind of numb out kind of like
So
yeah.
I was gonna say the only way I think like Legion that you could do it without legions is okay. So the problem without having legions is that humans, like if you put the pretties in the world with like the normals, let's just call them, I don't want to call them the uglies because it sounds fucked. But the normals will then always be susceptible to like subconsciously to like pretty privilege themselves. Like they're always gonna give their preference. That's why the legions work in the world, unless if everyone's if the perfect world isn't so much that everyone fits their perfect, but if everyone had a different view of the world, so if my view was my perfect view and your view was like your perfect view and they overlapped when we were seeing each other, I think that'd be the only way to eliminate like you could not have the legions, but then you eliminate like hierarchy or like the preference because you're always seeing what's preferable to you. And then that way there would be like I guess no hierarchy in the world where like if you want everyone to be perfect, so on and so forth. That would be probably the best way to do it without the legions. Because I think that's like the issue is like if we leave people to their preferences, well now like there isn't a standard of pretty. I think this is prettier than that. Are you gonna treat me worse because I'm not that standard of pretty that you think? So like that's kind of like because that's what I was thinking about. So how would you eliminate the legions?
I mean, it's so ironic. Like we live in a world where we're still fighting fat phobia, right? You think about it, like even our world. So like there's somebody who's gonna watch this movie and think like, oh, can you imagine being that shallow? And I'm like, what are you talking about? We live in a whole world that's shallow. Like that's the whole point. Is the shallowness the issue, or is there freedom in the shallowness? There's definitely a freedom in the community aspect of it, right? There's definitely a freedom in becoming a part of a tribe. But just like with Katniss,
There's an adaptivity to it. Yep.
exactly. Now, when I watch Hunger Games, I sit there and I'm like, I hate all of you. I don't want to hang out with none of you bitches. All of you are grumpy and complainers, all of you. And then you're just weird with your fashion and stuff, which kind of like it, but also like I don't want to hang out with any of those people. And so that's how I kind of like, maybe that's just me being like a little introvert, but I'm like, nah, I don't want to hang out with any of you people. And a big part of it is that I think they sell me an illusion that I think is a cope. Like, oh, we are in a world where like if when I make gloves and I give it to a girl, it means something because our resources are so little. And I'm like, sounds like a hard life, bro. And then, oh, but if you're pretty, like all you have to do is like suppress yourself. I'm like, sounds shitty, bro. So I've got two shitty options.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I hear. Can I have a little bit of both? A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're not,
I was
they're
gonna
not
say
equal though. They're not equal shitty options.
Ooh, what
Like,
do you
what's the-
think?
Yes, like what are the positives for like the normal world? It's just like you get to have a little bit more agency, but like also everything else is shitty. And then the other alternative is like my life is just like eons better in terms of like standard of living, right? And that's kind of where I'm like I can't
Maybe.
see. That's kind of the problem is that they're not equal. The two sides in this movie, in the movie, they're just not equal. The others, the bad side is so much better. In like,
How do they
in
feed
terms of, like,
themselves, the normies? Like, that's what I want to know. The
they
normals?
grow, they grow their own food.
Nobody's got time for that. Okay, question.
Yeah, like
Oh,
vegetables is what they're eating.
wait, I lost my question.
Carrots.
Keep talking.
Sorry. Yeah, they were eating spiced carrots, and I think like all they had was vegetables.
No
and it's like,
proteins, no deer, no like. Are there lion? Like, are there no meat? There's no meat.
That's what
Well, no,
happens to the old
yeah.
people.
But yeah, no. So, but like that's the thing, right? Is like the previous world was done. It's eroded. It's gone. So like there is no protein source because the only that's why everything is synthetic in the city, because there isn't a source.
right,
for
and there's
these-
no animals, but they could probably do lab grown meat or whatever.
Right.
But I was
Eventually,
gonna
but
say,
not,
Brittany,
not,
if you
not if they're living in the smoke.
still don't remember your question, I have a question. So when Tally came back to the school after the visit with Dr. Cable, and people were like, why is she still here? She's going to be here forever. There's no way there wasn't another person who, like, for some reason or the other, didn't go to the smoke, but also didn't get the surgery. Where are those people? Where are those
No.
in between people? The people who never got the surgery, but also didn't go to the smoke.
They're dead.
They don't
What's
Yeah.
up
exist.
with them?
There's
Well,
like
no, they- no,
underground
those-
in the city.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
why
No, they
wouldn't
don't
you get the
exist.
surgery? Like why wouldn't you get it?
You don't have a
maybe
choice.
because they got denied, right? Like, remember
Right,
when
like
Tally
maybe
was
they
going
weren't
her surgery
allowed
would
to
get
as like
denied?
a consequence.
I think that's a control
canceled?
tactic. I think they tell the kids
Like
in
hell.
the
Ooh,
school,
you'll go
like,
to
hey,
hell
you
if
can
you
you can
don't
get
pay.
denied. But like,
Yeah.
why would they ever deny you if they're
Mm.
lobotomizing you,
Good
right? If they're giving
point.
you legions to control you anyways and to like sedate you anyways, there's no real threat of getting denied because why?
But that would
like,
be interesting. Like people
Mhm.
maybe who've disappeared, but like they didn't show up at the smoke, they didn't show up in the Pretty
Mm.
Society. Where are they? Because I bet, because Brittany's asking what about the little bit of column A, a little bit of column
Yeah.
B. Maybe those people got together and did something like that. I briefly saw on Wikipedia there's something called the Tribe, which is different from the Smoke or something like that. So I don't know who those people are, but I do wonder about
See, I don't want to be a part of that group either.
concept.
Who wants to be a part of any of these groups?
Yeah,
It all
yeah.
sounds like a negative to me. Except the pretties. Like the pretties, at least I get fed and a nice apartment and I look good and like
Yeah.
I'm chilling. Like it's honestly like I think it might be better to play that particular game, but only because I don't want to grow my own food and I don't want to get my own water and I don't want to deal with nature and I don't want to get pregnant out in the wild either. That sounds like fucking no thank you.
Mhm.
And then I'm just thinking like there's like no benefits basically. Or it's all about those pros and cons.
Also, those gloves were leather gloves, and if David made them, what did he make them
Oh,
out of?
Great point.
Right? They were
Great
leather
point.
gloves,
What animal did we
Dang.
kill?
right?
Maybe it was the old people.
Or it was like a leather
Maybe it's human leather.
jacket that they found or something.
Yeah,
Or-
maybe. Man, I had a question and now I'm so upset I can't remember. I'm so upset with myself. Oh, wait. Shay. She said everyone she's loved is no longer here. Does she mean they're all pretty or does she mean they're dead?
Oh.
They're all pretty. That's
They're all
yeah.
pretty,
They're all
I
pretty,
think, right?
yeah.
They're like they don't associate, like they're gone because like
Oh.
She went through the same thing
Oh.
Tally went through where he stopped texting her and he stopped
Mhm.
giving a shit about her. I think that's what she was talking about.
Okay.
Knowing that they can text, do the parents ever text their kids? Like, what's their, or like once
No.
they drop them off at the school, they're like, okay, bye,
done.
see ya.
They're done. They just drop them off school there because
So
there
then
was
why
no
does the
communication
texting between them
Tally.
even exist?
Okay,
Like,
why
why
do
do
we
they
act like
allow
that's
that
even-
as an option?
But I like how we even think that's even crazy because like parents send their kids off to boarding school all the time. Like as if parents automatically love their
Fair,
offspring
yeah.
is such an idea.
If it's
Oh.
just like
Yeah.
what you do and it's for the best for the kid, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the question. You're a normie. You're a normal, but your family is all pretty. Do you become a pretty? Stay a normal? Go to the smoke? Join the tribe or whatever? The forever uglies. Chat saying the forever uglies basically hide themselves from society. Okay, we've got a book reader in chat. So like, do you want to be a forever ugly or become pretty with your family? Because if my whole family's pretty, maybe, probably, right? Like probably
No,
gonna be
but like
pretty.
100%. There's
Yeah, I'm
There's
doing
no-
whatever my
for
family's
sure.
doing.
there's
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There's no reason not to be in the world that was presented to me in the movie that I watched,
Yeah.
and I don't know in the books. But there's literally no reason for me to care about.
What
like,
about
living a
humankind?
normal
Like they
life.
kind of they made it sound like the
No.
people in the smoke like really care about humanity and they want to make it normal again. But like I don't know, bro. You're only alive for like 70 years. Is that really worth it?
It
Like
kind of sounds like vegans where they're like, no, like this is just the better way, and I'm like, okay, listen, you got it. Okay, if you want me to believe that this is the better way, I'm game. I'm open. Like, give me your best shot. What are your best arguments? And it's like nothing. Okay. No, they don't have any good arguments outside of like, yeah, humanity, but like humanity seems to be doing all right. These people are healthy. These people are fed. These people are.
do they
like,
even have
in
to be
terms of,
healthy? Like that's the thing. What is healthy? What is it? Is it really that important even that they're healthy? Like because I don't know if I require people to be healthy so much as I require people to feel like they're good with their choices.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you're growing up, so before you get the surgery, like, you're seeing the world. You knew who your parents were, right? Like, she
Mm.
gets dropped off. Her memory of her parents is, or of her memory of her mom is saying, "Oh, you're gonna be so much like prettier when you get this thing." And then she was like, she grew up and she was like, kind of like okay with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like I honestly I don't know what argument, like, or what convinced Tally to even like really be like, I want to go live in the smoke and fight for the smoke. This is all evil. I get that the character of like Dr. Cable was evil, but outside of the fact that she was evil, I really am like,
But like you can't see that like it would hurt your feelings if your friend was like completely different. Like have you never had a friend break up and you're like, why are you acting so weird towards me, bro?
so what to me it was likened to was like if you ever had a friend and you were like a 7th grader and they were an 8th grader and then they went to high school. right?
Mm, Yeah.
And then you're in the 8th grade and they're in high school and you're like, hey, like, why aren't we hanging out as much? And then they're kind of just like, dude, I got different shit I'm doing. Like, you'll understand when you get here.
For sure.
We'll reconnect when you get here, and maybe sometimes you do. But like, that's kind of what it felt like. Was like, he's like, hey, what do you want me to text you about? He's like, I didn't even know what I would say. He's in a different mindset, right?
Hmm.
It's like your friend who started doing drugs.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're smoking weed and like maybe you guys are still friends. Maybe you're not judging them, but you're like, hey, like you smoke weed every day. Like, do you want to hang out? And then they're like, well, no, I'm gonna smoke.
Sure,
And you're like, well,
sure.
wait, why don't
But
you want to hang out
that's
with
painful.
me?
That's like a hurtful
It
process,
is.
that, you
Still,
know.
yeah.
It is
I was
painful.
gonna say the whole movie would have been prevented if he just texted her
Yeah, but like
and
but I
then
think but that shows the difference of like once again, I think it's like he's expecting her to come join him anyways. There's
True.
like, hey, you're gonna get here. You kind of have to get here. It's not even up to you. He doesn't
Right.
even know that the smoke exists by the like at this point.
True.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So in his mind, he's like, yeah, I'm sure it hurts her now, but when she's here, it won't matter. It's kind of like that. That
Or he's
idea,
not
like,
even
hey, if you
thinking that
suffered-
far.
Yeah, if you suffered a punishment like 100 years in your head, but it was only a minute in real life, like
Sure.
it's one of those things like, hey, in 2 months, like sure, but you won't even care because those 2 months you'll forget about it. So I don't know if it's like he doesn't think. I don't think he's thinking about like her emotions because he's like, well, I don't have any. So
Well, they're
like, she
definitely
won't have
codependent
any.
anyways. Like their friendship was
Mhm.
super codependent, like to be real. But that's
But
very
he wanted
young.
to
like,
marry
young-
her. He wanted to marry her because that was like the she cut him off. But in the beginning, he's like, hey, do you think like in the city that in the future that you would want to? And then she cut him off because the what's called. So he was in love with her. She was naive because she
Okay.
thought they were just friends, and that's why
Oh.
Shay believed that like when she was wearing the necklace originally, because like no one owns anything, and that's a really obscure piece of jewelry. Which, by the way, was really dumb by Dr. Cable to give her that necklace, because the first
Yeah,
thing I
that's
thought was,
not-
hey, no one has this random jewelry in this world. But
I
that's
think it
why
was dumb
Shay.
At
of
least do, like, an
David
implant.
to be like, "You're clean," except this mystery high-tech necklace
Which he
that
hovered over to see if it was a
Yeah.
detection thing.
Yeah.
But that's why Shay believed that David had, or that Paris had given her the necklace, because she already had thought that they were like in love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, which is
Kind
when
of
I thought
almost
she was
like-
jealous of their relationship. I thought Shay was trying to make a
Mhm.
move, and she's like, "Oh, I get it. You're like picking a boy," and I was like, "Don't pick a
Mhm.
boy." My gay brain just thought this was a lesbian love story. My bad.
It feels even more potentially hurtful for Paris not to have messaged her knowing that he wanted to get married. Now I'm like, well, he definitely should have texted her, if only to say,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
"But wait till you
a
get here."
text. Like, especially she was
Right.
like double, triple texting him. So, and if like that drastic of a personality, that is a pretty drastic personality shift, I think. Because even
Yeah.
if it's like, hey, like, even if it's like, hey, I don't want to like talk about it now, but you would say that. You
Yeah.
would say, like, hey, when you get here, I can't wait to show you. Like, I won't be
Exactly. I
able
can't
to
wait
meet up
to.
with you, but like I'll see you soon. Like something
Oh.
like that would have probably prevented Tally from
The
like going
whole,
on this whole
yeah.
yeah.
well, no, he's not. The
He
thing
still
is, like,
goes,
they're
yeah.
nonchalant, right? Because when she bumped into the other girl, and initially when Tally broke into the scene, she bumped into the girl, and she's like, "Oh my God, sorry." And then the other girl turned around, she's like, "Hey, pretty."
Yeah.
Like, these people are nonchalant, right?
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah.
the legions are playing.
Okay.
The legions are playing a
huge-
little bit more of a
He
role
could have
than
sent
like.
a nonchalant, like,
No,
"Can't make it tonight. I'll see you in 2 months."
This is like
Attachment. They don't have the
like,
attachments, but her parents
Yeah, I guess
do.
so.
Don't her parents kind of have an attachment to her? Like, or no? Or was it indicating that they don't even have an attachment to her?
no, they love her, but like they're just like waiting.
I mean, they didn't
you'll-
text. They're not in contact.
They're
right?
also
Oh,
not like
yeah.
in contact,
Okay,
right?
well, if her
So-
parents aren't going to be in contact, I don't know why she thought what's his name would be Paris.
Yeah,
Mhm.
true.
Wait, and
Well,
then
he promised, though.
when other people too in the see that okay, you know what it felt like? It felt like Tally kept just shifting between like our reality and her reality. Because if I took our reality out of it and I was purely in Tally's reality, then there would have been people who also had people leave. There would have been conversations with other people. I would have known that nobody would text. My parents not texting me, but my best friend text me. And then I'd be like, okay, we're signing up for a world that's like so far from us, so different. Like when my cousins become monks or priests and go into the mountains for 3 months without a cell phone, like it's not about me. It's about them and what they're doing in their relationships. But I can see why somebody would feel abandoned by that, but not
Yeah.
a person who grew up in the culture, expecting it to happen that way.
wanting it.
Wanting it themselves. Bitch wanted it herself. So like, what do you think? You're doing? But then why didn't she let her?
And Shay knew that this would happen too, because in the very beginning of the movie, she's like, "Is that your boyfriend?" And like, she's like, "Oh, just a friend." And then she had this look.
Mm.
So yes, you are right. I haven't thought of it that way, but the fact that there clearly have been other people who had their boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, go first.
Right.
Right.
Would be other people who would relate to the experience of.
But see, she had no
losing
other friends. That's why
contact.
she was codependent. Like, how you be in this program? You have no fucking friends.
Also, how
For
did
4
you not
years,
know
you're just
any-
hanging out with this one dude?
Yeah, and how did you not know anyone that was your age? Like they found out they were each other's birthday. I was like, come on, writers,
Yeah.
come, like,
Yeah.
do a
Yes,
little
and she's on
better.
her period and shit, and she just has the
Yeah.
guy friend. Like, I'm sorry, you're going through menstruation and whatnot without any female friends? Question mark. Like, what's going on there?
And they're all
you know?
Doesn't make
together. It's not
sense.
like she didn't talk to the other kids in the class. It's not like people didn't know. It was weird. It was like nothing. You know why? Because I kept thinking, yeah, nothing makes sense in terms of how humans socialize. Like humans are too in each other's business. Like
Well, Shay
there's
had friends.
Yes.
Shay had multiple
had
friends. She
friends.
had a
Yeah,
group-
yeah, you're right.
She's like, I see you're popular. I see you have a bunch of friends. Blah blah blah. It's like you were just like this weird outcast who was super good at tech, who was also a rebel, who like
Who snuck out? So was basically a
Like,
party
who
kid with
is
no
she?
party.
yeah,
Who
and
is
it's
she?
like
She is not. Yeah. She
and,
is
like the
like
worst
very
thing about you is you had
convenient.
squinty eyes.
Which, by the
Like,
way,
that
felt
was
very racist since her best friend was Asian. I was like, this feels weird. Like, I feel like that word is always racist to me. I grew up in that
Right?
bubble where, like, you're not supposed to say that word.
Also, her nose was bigger than his.
Oh,
so the
yeah,
fact that he was
truly.
called nose-
I was confused.
Yeah.
His was
Okay.
like broken. It was like crooked.
That's a question. If you guys were the
Mm.
uglies, what would be your thing people would call you?
Probably someone
Ooh.
with my cheeks.
Oh, it would have been ears.
Jaw.
and big
I
ears.
think I would have been ears too.
jaws
I
have
have
or
big
or just
ears.
fat. Yeah.
Yeah, are we could do weight? I wonder.
Yeah.
Nobody in the
Oh.
pretty world is overweight either, huh? Like
Nobody in
everybody's
the
Yeah.
like
ugly
a
world
very
was overweight either.
Nobody was
Either.
No one in
overweight
the ugly
anywhere.
world was ugly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
wait. What do we define as ugly? Because this is always funny to me, where I think like everyone's kind of ugly, but they're not. Like everyone's kind of ugly to me, but not if I like them.
You have to be like solidly below
Okay,
4.5
but then
on the 10-point scale.
but then if you like that person, they're like not ugly anymore. So then it's like, okay, what does ugly even mean? I believe there is like the like I always say like a horse
Mhm.
like rating where I'm like, is this horse beautiful? Like you know, a specimen that is beautiful.
Right,
But then
right.
out of that context, like everyone's just kind of like people. Like people are just people to my brain. But then it's like that's even the society they went into. Like I couldn't tell exactly. Like, did you see? Okay, do you remember what she looks like at the very end when she's pretty?
Yeah.
Okay, did you think how much prettier did she go up? Like points wise, like what do we think? Like she went from like what, like a 4 or 5
This question,
to
I just missed me. I
a
don't,
6.
I
I
don't
can't
know how to
remember
even
the
say
name.
that.
I
Did any of
mean,
you
I
watch Pretty
don't
Little
value
Liars? I thought she looked like a completely different person. Did any of you watch Pretty Little Liars?
No.
Lucy something is her name. I thought she looked like that chick.
Lucy,
Mm.
this girl's beautiful though.
Wait.
That girl,
That
the
was so in-
Tally
so,
to me is
yeah.
not that pretty, but she's not.
Tally
she looks like a
isn't,
kid.
but
She
when-
looks like a kid.
When they kept
Yeah.
showing the images, I was like, they're likening her to like that. I don't think she's like a 1-for-1 or nothing.
Sure,
But
sure,
the
sure.
eyebrows got thicker, the hair was like more whatever. And so it's like I think she looked more like her. So she did change, and she also looked more mature.
Yeah,
Right? I think
yeah,
like with
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the pretties,
yeah,
all the pretties looked 20 like 7.
Yeah.
yeah. They aged them.
Yes.
So
I will
she
say-
did look like older and like you know, blah blah blah.
I will say the standards of beauty in the pretties world were really interesting because it did seem very influenced by Instagram filters. Because
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
like, okay, well, this pretties world isn't even that like nobody's tense here. Like I was expecting a world full of Monica Bellucci's.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful.
And it wasn't a world full
No.
of Monica Bellucci. So I was like, okay, well then it's just
See,
I do
Monica
not
is
So you get-
beautiful. Like that is like
Yes.
oh my
Yeah.
God, what's happening? Like,
I think they
Yes.
actually there's that exact filter on TikTok right now. It's the bold fierce look.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
bold
Which
glamour.
actually
I think.
adds
Bold glamour.
bold
Yeah.
glamour.
Yeah.
Which is actually like it's almost 1-to-1 because like the high cheekbones with like the
Yes.
highlighter and the blah blah blah.
Right,
And then the
right.
eyes. So it's like it really was just like what would a filter look like on a person? That's perfect.
Yeah.
I'm betting they use that same technology on their little faces as that TikTok filter because it's a really good filter. Like if you put your hand in front of your face, like there's nothing because
great.
it's like AI that like maps your face and it's basically almost like perfect CGI on your face. So I'm betting they use that, which also made the movie look kind of cheap.
Yes, it did. It did. Because
yeah.
filters
Mhm.
filters look that way.
There is something that's too smooth. There's like nothing to like grip onto to like get into like a relationship with. It just to me that like kind of fake like beauty is just so it's too smooth. Like you slip right off. There's nothing there. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing there to like grab onto. So it's just to me it's not attractive at all. Like who are
I've
you?
never I've never
Yeah.
read the books or like yeah, but like I don't know if that's what they were going for. Because everything around them seemed to be
Right.
pretty like augmented reality. Nothing was like
Mhm.
necessarily real. Like I'm not gonna lie, when she first got to the city, I thought it was really strange that they had the statue with like the Christmas lights in the girl's hair. That was like the
Mhm.
first thing you saw. I was like, that seems really like that wouldn't go here because everything else looked like Dubai in 2030 or 2030, 3030. You know, and I was like, this is yeah. So I think like I felt like they were going for like everything is a filter. Because the way the dress, like when she put on the mask and the dress like overlaid on what she was
Yeah,
doing, I think they
yeah.
were going for like futuristic CGI like AI filters.
So yeah, like a fake kind of beauty
hmm
then, not an actual what I would call beauty,
Yeah,
like
not actual
not
beauty.
like a very bullshit version. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
A very synthetic. It was synthetic beauty because
Mhm.
that's the
I'm
only way to like
wondering.
normalize it, right? If everyone's
So
natural, like
in
if
that case, if it is a bullshit beauty, then they actually the pretties world is like completely devoid of beauty, like real beauty.
technically,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Completely bereft. Yeah.
Do
Well,
you
that's
think
the
people
idea,
would be
right?
allowed to
Yeah, yeah,
choose?
yeah.
So, like, they're all supposed to choose their
Good
own things, right?
paths.
Would somebody be allowed to choose something that they thought was pretty that went outside of that,
I don't
right?
think
So, like,
so.
what if I'm like, oh, like my
So, but
version,
I
Mm-mm.
think there's probably no what they thought, really, like, because
Yeah,
you're so
fair,
programmed,
yeah,
you
they're
know?
you're
conditioned to
kind of
well, look,
believe
we
that
can't do
yeah, you're
that's
that
what pretty
now.
indoctrinated.
is.
We can't do
Yeah,
that now. If you have a clique and they have a standard of what they expect you to look like, you can't deviate from the look. Like that's the
hmm
irony of like people who are convinced that like, oh, I'm going to find the group of people who don't care what I look like. Nobody is in a group of people where there's not a standard of expectation of how you look, how you show up to restaurants, how you
True.
look at weddings, how you look in pictures. Like that's why there's so much pressure to socializing because there is always a subtle like, oh, like even at the BDSM dungeon, we definitely like notice when people bought like the nice floggers and the not nice floggers. We're like,
Mhm.
like we notice because like there's a safety element that goes into it, but also there's just like a, oh, I can see like how much you invested into this, which there comes with judgment, right? There's a judgment that comes with it.
So
Because of
like
the
in
meaning and yeah. Mhm.
even in the
Yeah.
smoke, I wonder how like non-judgmental they are because the idea is no one cares what you look like. Well, all right, cool. What if I go to the smoke and I'm still superficial, right? I'm still shallow and I still want to look pretty, so I find ways to like do my
Wouldn't you
makeup
be a
or
little
whatever it may
bit like,
be.
wouldn't you
No, I'm
think
just
that
saying
they would be like, yeah, yeah.
they would not like that person because that person is like shallow and like cares about what they look like, and that would be against like their whole fucking thing. Like that's not natural. Beauty is natural. Like I don't. So they do care about what people look like. You do have to fit into a certain
To
like
their
they,
standard, right?
yeah.
Like
So
it's
it's
not
yeah,
That
it's
would have
the
been
not.
so
pretty
interesting
standard.
if they would have like shown that process of like, oh, like each person when they come to the smoke, like having to deconstruct their like, sense of beauty and like prettiness and like the value that they have. Like that would have been interesting to see. Like that's actually a process. It's not just this innate thing. When you're steeped in this culture, you have to like deconstruct it to get out
Right.
of it.
They couldn't do that because they were all good looking.
Yeah, I know.
There's this like irony too with how people just assume like, oh, I went to one like session of therapy, eureka, I figured it out. And that's what happens a lot in this movie. Like she hears one thing and it's enough, but like that's not how deconstruction works. That's not how like introspection works. It takes a lot of time and a lot of mistakes and a lot of doing it again and again until the like you actually understand yourself or society. So even that is sort of like the illusion of being a young person is that like, and that's why young people feel like they get it, which I totally understand because, like, I'm a young person, but like, I get it. It's like you feel like you get it, right? You're like, I remember when I got it. And then you get older and you have all these bubble pops and you realize, like, oh, all right, like, I'm never really going to get it. But what I'm going to get is just like closer and closer by trying to be wise with my decisions. But wisdom is something you earn over time. And I think I will die an unwise person. And I think that's just because I think there's so much more to life than we could even imagine, but we keep having the same conversations for thousands of years about what is beauty and who's the hierarchy and who's the greatest race and who's the greatest thing. It's like we're still so stuck on the superficiality. Our own world is so stuck on superficiality. And I don't blame us. Look how cute we all look today.
No, like
Mhm.
as I get older, anytime I like think I'm like, oh, I got it. Like if someone says something and I feel like I have like a click moment, I feel like weirdly guilty. I'm like, who the fuck do you think you are to think you got it? You're gonna fuck up you're gonna make the same mistake, probably just maybe a little bit less. that's the whole goal. Is like to
Yes.
fuck up a little bit less than the last time.
Totally.
Because you
Mhm.
like you didn't get it. If you would have gotten it, you wouldn't have made the mistake initially.
Mm,
The reason you made the mistake is because you don't get it.
Right, right. Which is where humility comes in, because you have to, like, suffer wisely. People suffer, I think, unwisely, and then they create all these problems in their life that were unnecessary. And I think the whole point is to, like, suffer wisely, because life will give you the lessons, and it's to recognize that it's a lesson. It's like, oh, this is like an opportunity. This isn't like the universe punishing me. This is like this is the way my story is going. Okay, what do I do to move my story in a different direction, or change the plot, or like move it in a different? And I think that's so scary, because it puts you in so much more control than even we want, which is why we want to be pretty, because like, oh, somebody else somebody else do it. Like, somebody else do it. Which the irony of, like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps is, like, no one ever does. Nothing is ever done really alone. But at the same time, nothing is ever done in a way that is ever, I think, in harmony with the idea of being an individual and a societal, like a community member, without the realization that you are both at the same time. And it's very hard for us to realize, like, we are all things at the same time. We are brothers and sisters and lovers and mothers, all at the same time. We're all these labels. And I feel like sometimes, like, oh, the way they depict it in the movie, like, she is basically just a girl waiting to be pretty, but she is a daughter. She is a friend. She is a person. But it's interesting that no one in the film ever thought to ask themselves, like, what do I want other than being pretty? And I think that's what the smoke is supposed to represent, is like, well, if you weren't busy being pretty, what else could you be? But what were they in the smoke? They were, like, cute and, like, humble living, but, like, again, peace and love. I always get people telling me, like, oh my God, Brittany, you should join our homestead, or Brittany, oh my gosh, you should come. Like, you would love living on this farm with people. I was like, you're so sweet. I don't want to live with you. Like, I don't want to live with you. I want to pay my tax and have my own apartment, and I want to mind my own business. But that's just because people have an illusion that, like, we're all going to get along. But how many documentaries? I don't know if you guys watch them. I watch all the documentaries on, like, adults going their own way, people building farms. Never works out. The drama is insane. Insane. So, like, in some ways, if you think about it, I don't know that Tally's the first dramatic moment of the smoke. The illusion of the smoke is they were in harmony until Tally ruined it. But was that true? I don't know.
That seems very unlikely, knowing that her parents started it, right? So it's been going on for a while already.
Whose
like-
parents? David's parents?
I'm sorry,
David.
her. I meant
David.
him. I meant
Okay.
him. David's parents started it. Yeah. So, like, obviously been in existence for a couple decades, and it feels like there should have been some other disruption or disagreement or something at
Well, it
some
was a
point.
super small. It was like probably super small, like the buildup. It wasn't a fast buildup, because I mean, if they're taking one kid every now and then, right? Because it was only like Shay, and Shay wasn't supposed to tell anyone, and this is kind of a myth. This isn't even like a
Yeah,
reference,
and
like,
maybe the
you have
person
a group of,
before
like-
Shay was like a
Yeah.
while back.
Good point. Good point.
you have a group of like 20, 30 people. It's probably not
Easier
so
to
crazy,
get
you know.
along.
Then one intruder comes in with like the whole like plot of like, I'm gonna devastate what's going on. I mean, that, you know, it forces them into fight mode, right? Like, these people were just like living to the side. I don't think they were never planning on attacking the city, right? That wasn't like a whole. They just wanted to live their lives. It was Dr. Cable who was like, they're planning an attack. They want to
Right.
destroy our city.
Yeah.
So
Weren't they
Yeah.
like causing disruption to the flowers though?
Orchids,
Like that
yeah.
was part of their like they weren't planning
That's
a
true.
destruction on the city, but like they were actively
Destroying the
destroying,
resources.
burning those.
Yeah, those resources.
Which then makes
Mm.
me feel like, once again, I'm like now more sympathetic to like Dr. Cable's side. Like, once again, I get that they were painting her as evil. I get it, whatever. But she's like, hey, these people are just kind of destroying the thing that's keeping us alive.
You know what,
Like,
though? That wasn't the story they were giving us, but that would have been a better story.
Yes, I agree.
Like-
Thank you.
Mhm.
That
would
have been a better story.
That is the story that I watch. It's like
But,
the whole
but it's
time,
not
like-
really
yeah.
the
I-
we're
it
supposed to
isn't, it
know.
isn't.
Yeah, we're supposed to know she's like super evil and like. But
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would have been a much better story. That would have been a great
Yeah.
it's
story.
like
I feel like I could
Is-
relate to that more.
like do like an anti-tech like terrorist thing where it's like, hey, actually this is the better version of life. These
Right.
people are, the other people are trying to indoctrinate you without the like machinery. This is
Right.
just like natural indoctrination, like
Okay,
natural
right.
But
warfare.
this is the whole theory about my bubbles and my levels, because I'm like, okay, let's say no one's really malicious or a bad guy. Like, genuinely, everyone thinks they're doing good for everybody. why can't we accept that? And like, how do we feel about moving in different directions? But it's this idea that like, no, they don't have your best interest in mind. I mean, look at the way that like presidential candidates talk about each other, right? Like, he's going to destroy your life. They're going to destroy your life. Everyone's going to destroy your life. Are they going to destroy our lives? And like, if this happened for some group of people, would it be the best thing that ever happened for them? And this group of people, would it be their nightmare? And is there a standard of health we can let people have in their own diverse like bubbles, right? Because I think that's the trouble is like, what if like Cable was just actually a good person who wanted the best for her community, and she found the resources she could. She sacrificed the planet in order to do it, but also it already had happened. Like, she's making the best she can. That would have been a very interesting story, but I think it is not. I don't think anyone in the world accepts that that is what's happening. I think that is what's happening, but I think there are some malicious characters, and those malicious characters make everybody afraid that everyone's being malicious. And if everyone's being malicious, then you have to make a prescription for everybody that everyone should move in a particular direction, that there is the right way to live life. And that's what gets like really complicated about it. Because I could imagine a world where being pretty without it being malicious could be much better for people. I think Brave New World's actually a perfect example of that. Because in Brave New World, the babies are manufactured. They're like little test tubes. And then they're given like their standard. I don't know if you guys have read the book, but it used to be my favorite book of all time. And they're born into certain standards, right? So like they don't know better. It's like they're not being forced. They didn't have a life before this. But the ones who are savages, who are born outside of the facility, outside of the town, they're natural born. And so, you know, I don't want to spoil it for people in the chat who want to read it, but it's really interesting. If you take somebody who's free and you put them in that bubble, of course it's going to feel like a trap.
Right.
And if you take somebody who is free, but like it's too much of a burden and they would prefer to actually have the assistance, then it feels like a saving grace. And then if you take somebody who's like, life is paid for, they have this great apartment, everything is good, and now you tell them, hey, you have to go make your own butter, they're like, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what we keep doing to each other. We're like, you'll be so much happier if you stop taking vaccines and you do, you know, you give your kids like grass medication. It's like, okay, everybody relax. Maybe, but maybe not. And I think that's what's happening. I think that's what the movie is supposed to, but see, anyone could watch this movie and say, they're talking about my side. I know who the bad guy is. And I'm like, do you? Is it clear who the bad guy is?
I think it's that. So like, I think we don't let other people live their lives because even though we're individuals, we see ourselves, or at least we yearn to be like communal, right? So
Totally.
we're like, hey, this is going to be the best for everyone. And everyone has that little bit of like God complex in them where they're like, hey, if everyone just listened to me, if I got to rule the world and I got to decree the rules, we'd all be happy. No one would be killing each other. Everything would be Gucci. And then like, it's just like, yeah, you want to share that, right? So you're like, you feel like you're looking out or you're saving the other person, right? You're like, come join me, do this. We're gonna live better. I know we'll get more people in and more people in, and
Totally.
it like we want to be communal at the end of the day, you know?
I was gonna say one thing that I did like about the movie and also the concept is how it kind of encourages body neutrality. Like the movie had a lot of like people observing what people looked like, even though it wasn't always super accurate because the actors they got were not bad looking. But I did like that people were just kind of like, yep, you got this and this going on. Oh, you have asymmetry here. But I mean, the one promise though was that you would get to fix all of it. But in real life, you know, that's not always going to be the case. But I did like that the characters kind of were forced to grow up having a sort of body neutrality. And then the other thing is I do wonder about like the whole, oh, the orchid's toxic to the rest of the planet. At the end of the day, though, maybe this is just the last hurrah. Like if we knew like, okay, that's it. Earth's resources depleted. This is the fuel source we have, period. We have this many years. What do you want to do with that time? Not experience the peak of luxury and fun and, you know, the hedonism? I mean, why not, right? Like,
Yeah.
if the resources are gone and done, and that's the option, or the option is to go live Anne Prim and like you're in the 1700s. I mean, just don't have kids, party it up, and
Yeah.
it is what it is, right?
Well, yeah, that's why for the smoke, like they had to be made the villain, otherwise, like, because like they didn't want to do anything. They just wanted to live out the rest of their days and get old and frown lines and so on and so forth. Because I don't think they had a plan of like recruiting everyone. I think their whole thing was like, hey, if you want to come to this, you'll reach out, you'll hear about me, and you'll figure it out, and you'll reach out. So I do think it was I think you're right. I think that I do think the city itself is like the last hurrah because everything's gone. I'm sure they know that the plant is toxic to the planet, and that's why I keep like, I'm like, they gotta, if the story's written in a way that the city is like the villains, they had to have written it way better in the book because right now there's no angle that I'm seeing that these guys are like the villains. I like they didn't paint that well enough.
That's one of the criticisms I did see on TikTok where people saying like, hey, like it's not just about being pretty. The movie made it sound like the villains weren't actually like doing these really horrible things to people. So you're right. I don't think it was depicted very clearly in the first film. And that's why it made it even more confusing. Like it felt rushed because you're right. Like you could guess and you could go further into it. And it's like that whole speech that David's parents gave was almost good, but I'm like, where's the data? Where's the evidence? What's the harm in this? Like, what's the worst case scenario? Where does this lead me to? And it took a lot of my imagination to get me to a horrible conclusion.
Like within the city, if the legions are bad and if there's all these like negative repercussions, like why doesn't a single, which I guess maybe is what the tribe is, maybe it's people within the city who notice things and have enough free will to like fight against whatever it is, maybe, but like you would assume that all the people in the city would notice what's going on or notice like random people dying or
well,
I mean,
even that
care, but
even the idea that like, oh, people died during the surgery, people died getting a nose job.
Yeah.
So like, but then that's the problem.
They died going to the dentist.
But then I keep comparing it to my reality. In their reality, the illusion is that no one is dying and everyone's living this great life. And don't worry, like you just have to be here temporarily. And then, so I think this is like a bubble or like a world where you can't even imagine like death happening in a sense. And maybe that's the lie. Maybe the lie is like, it's not as perfect as they say it is. And maybe that's the point, but like nothing ever is.
Yeah. I think the books would have to be.
Books are always better usually.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I did think it was interesting. Like I couldn't grasp in my head how big the city was, or the world building was really sloppy for me. Like I couldn't grasp how diverse it was. Like obviously the casting was diverse, which is fine, but like I couldn't tell, like, does it matter? Are we talking about how babies are made? Are they biracial babies? And then how does that happen? Do they pair them up based on genetics? Like I couldn't figure out like how many people were in the city. Like, am I talking about 5 million? Am I talking about 30 million? How many people are left on Earth? Like all of that was extra confusing to my brain. So I just kind of like let myself be in it and didn't worry too much about the details, which is how I usually watch movies anyways. But then obviously it was a good think piece for my brain to say like, again, I kept just asking my partner, like, what is a free thinker? Like, what do people, I've heard that my whole life from people. Like, oh, I'm really a free thinker. People should be free. Don't be a sheep. And I'm like, I don't know. Being a sheep sounds kind of nice. Like, I feel like you got to make a good argument for why we shouldn't be sheep. And I think that's what's hard for people to recognize. Like, I'm not sure that people know what they want, but they want to feel like they're free. Like, have you ever seen a person who's like, I can't believe anyone's ever wanted to unalive themselves. And I'm like, you don't want to unalive yourself? And they're like, no. I'm like, then why is your life so shitty? How could you want to live so badly and your life is this shitty? Like, maybe that's why I think my life is so good because I wanted to die for so long. I was like, I'm not going to live and not have a good life, girl. And then I'm always shocked at these people who don't want to die, but they live like these shitty lives. Like, what's the point? And then somebody told me they're not living because they love life. They're living for the potential they could love life one day. And I was like, oh. That's interesting. And whether or not they get it doesn't matter.
Eventually I'll be rich. Eventually
Yeah.
I do the right. It's the people that are like, no, I don't want to tax the rich. Eventually I'm going to become one of these billionaires. I want to be that billionaire. So why would I want to tax them now so it doesn't affect me later?
Right. Yeah, it's the dreamers. It's like a dreamer. It's like the whole world is built off like a dreamer mentality or like. And look, I love diversity. I want people to be religious. I want people to be whatever they're going to be. I think that's beautiful. I just think it's interesting that we think we're more advanced than like people who believed in Zeus. When I'm like, I don't know, bro. Believing in a god is such an interesting perspective. It's so beautiful in so many ways and really makes people happy. But I don't know how
Mhm.
that isn't any different than believing in anything else that we look back and think on people like, I can't believe they did that. And by the way, whatever I'm doing now, I can't wait for 10 years to go by and people be like, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, I can't believe I did that. Because like that is just the cycle of being a person. We're always going to look back and think, I can't believe we did that. I don't know.
It's like someone telling you to act your age. It's like, this is the first time I've been this age, so I don't. What do you mean act my age? I've never done this before.
There's a dream. There's an ideal of a expectation of what like a great life. That's why utopia is such a fun word. Like this idea of this great and perfect world where individuals exist. Get out of your ass. Like how do you expect a world of individuals to have any type of harmony in a really grand and perfect way where there's no violence and no disagreement? I mean, hello, have you seen some of these panels? Like, we be yelling, okay?
Only way to do
I'm
it is
also
with
cur-
legions.
So yeah, I guess the legions are the explanation, but like I understand that they've created the world that like resources are not limited, everybody can have cupcakes, this, that, and the other. But it feels like human nature where some people would begin to hoard their cupcakes, or
Ooh.
like Brittany's cupcakes suddenly are looking better than my cupcakes, or like I don't believe, and I just have to buy into the fact that legions are getting rid of the competitive nature. But that just seems like a big flaw in this, that like, or maybe also in that same kind of regard, like I'm going to get my pretty surgery and then like 5 years down the road, I'm going to be looking at everybody else's pretty surgeries and be like, man, I really wish I had gotten X, Y, and Z like I keep seeing on all these other people. Like, do I get to
I
go
think
back
you
and
could
do
get
an
top-ups.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Okay,
but they touched
okay.
on that.
Mom mentioned that they stopped getting the surgeries, implying that you could get multiple.
Okay.
They touched
There-
on that just a
Oh,
little bit.
interesting.
So when Shay came out and they saw like Shay, Tally was like, Shay, your eyes, and Shay was like, I hope you're not mad or jealous that I picked gold like you wanted. Right. So I think
Right.
there's like, so Sans Legions, obviously I wouldn't believe a world, because in this world where you get to choose perfect, right? I always have you guys ever gone to a restaurant with someone that like both of you haven't been to the restaurant, so you're both picking a new meal, and then you're confident in your decision, they're confident in their decision, but what they pick just fucking looks better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
what I'm
So
feeling
that's
like.
like, that would be like a huge issue in this world without the legions, because like, what if I just didn't know gold eyes would be like a thing, right? And then I get out of the surgery, I see your gold eyes, and I'm like, huh, am I now a copycat? That if I go change my eyes, are you gonna be annoyed that I did that? Because like, is uniqueness a part of being pretty, or is it just like, is it just the standard? Like, so what is pretty? Like, if I have a dress design that's different and unique, like that's what I was wondering about their clothes. I wanted to see more of the city, because it was like, do people have different style, or is it just everyone's in a same suit, different color suit?
Yeah. Or hobbies or like anything else. Cause like in our
Like,
our reality.
Apartments, homes.
Yeah, apartments and homes. Like, is it the same? And by the way, you know how those like they'll show like these home structure, like we call them cookie cutter homes. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure. Okay,
Yeah.
everything is the same. Look, I don't mind that at all. In some ways, it's like easier. You don't have to think about it too much. But then you'll see these big, beautiful custom homes, and every neighborhood has like individual homes, and it's gorgeous, and both are good. But it's interesting the way we'll criticize, like, oh, I can't believe you have one of those modern homes, and I'm like, just be happy someone has a house in this economy. Just be happy. But we can't. We actually, I think, struggle as people to feel happy for other people if we feel like it would be awful for us. Even I notice myself doing it on stream, and I don't want to send the message to my audience that I actually care what anyone's doing with anything they're doing, as long as they're not hurting people. Because all I'm trying to say is like, I wouldn't be happy there, but like that doesn't matter. Like my happiness in your home matters 0%. But I think because people live for other people in a way that like they need you to be happy in their home, I think sometimes when I talk and I forget like, oh, people think I'm talking about me. Like I don't want them to change for me. I want them to be themselves. I think that's what
You're just
movies like
sharing an
this.
opinion.
Yeah, like, and I think in this movie, like being pretty is important because it gives you the validation of everyone around you, but now you've arrived. And arriving is a really good feeling to people. It feels like a milestone. But after you're pretty in this world, what other milestones are there?
Right.
Because like
what do you look
hedonism gets
forward
boring,
to?
right? Like doesn't hedonism get a little boring? Like
Well, I guess like like
Unfulfilling.
I feel like there's always going to be some type of like hierarchy. So it's like now that everyone's like looks the same. Okay, so I guess maybe like people who have kids who sustain society, right? Who sustain humanity, maybe they're like pretty plus, right? Like you're just like a little bit like we see you differently. Then there's the scientists who do like X amount of thing for society, right? The builders, whatever it may be. Maybe now it becomes like, oh, your skills, like whatever your skill
You're pretty
is like where
and
your
you're
hierarchy
skilled.
is. Yeah. So like now there's the class system, but like there's no money. So your skill is the like your artistry almost. Everyone's like an artist in their
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
And so it
Hmm.
becomes
Well, is there
like
creativity in this world?
Say it again.
Is there creativity in this world?
Ooh. I'd have to
well for
assume
the people
not.
yeah. Well maybe for the people who are shaping. Because people have to shape society. You still have to shape and like give
There's
these
got to
like
be at
there
least a
still has to be someone who's
Fashion.
throwing
So
the
then-
Interior
parties, making the
design.
clothes, like
Yeah, so then there wouldn't be technically an arrival even with the beauty standards if there is, that element of creativity. That I guess that's kind of you know what I
Well, if
mean?
I think if there's a
Fair.
second movie that explore that stuff, like how the pretty
Yeah.
society works,
I-
the
yeah, that's-
hierarchies
I-
within.
That's what I mean
what
when I
people
say
are
I want to
actually doing.
know what the life
Yeah.
is like in that city. Like what's
But
it actually like?
I feel like this does translate to like just growing up as a person who like I have a lot of Muslim friends and they live in Muslim countries that are like all like the whole government is. There is like a cool way of describing the world they live in where like there's healthcare and schooling and people are taken care of and it's really rich and it's abundant and people are fed and like housed and it's like it sounds fucking cool. Now the cons would be something like, oh, I want to like maybe be gay or have tattoos or maybe be on the extreme. Then you have to ask yourself though, is that worth the exchange? And like that's really what we're doing in life is like we're asking ourselves, what is worth the exchange? Like I live in Croatia and there's no gay marriage, but I can get an abortion up to 8 weeks. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of like, okay, there's like something my healthcare is $80 a month for my health insurance. Okay, that's better than the $800 I was gonna be charged in Arizona. Like, okay, like I can work with this. Okay. Groceries are 400 euro instead of 700 euro. Okay, like I can manage this. There's like pros and cons with everything, but I'm away from my family. I'm not going to see them for a while. I might not even see them up to 2 years. That's a long time not to see somebody I saw every month. You know what I mean? That's a big deal. But then you think about it. So when I think about the pretties versus the normies, I do think about like, okay, well, as the pretties, like Ollie was saying, like, okay, there's only so many disadvantages to this unless there truly is some sort of like torturous, horrible thing that's going to happen, which I assume is what's actually happening in the books. That's what I assume is why it's so bad. But in just the simplicity of what if it wasn't bad and what if you were just pretty, but you were a little dulled out? I'm not sure that people aren't doing that already on TikTok. Like, aren't we numbing ourselves already?
Oh, for sure.
Isn't that
Yeah.
like-
doom scroll.
Wasn't that a conversation we had in the Discord at one point? Like
Probably.
if you were like forced to be happy, would you like choose that or like would you I forget the exact framing of the question, but like would you be okay if like your government set up your life in such a way that you had to participate in such a way that would like mean that you would become a happy whole person as
Mm.
opposed to like a government where you had full agency and you could do what you wanted even if that meant you could become like the worst kind of person, but you
Yeah.
still had the agency to choose like which one would you choose.
Yeah, and the hypotheticals, by the way, I think I want to say this for my audience, like it's not to tell us what we'd actually do because none of us would know. It's to ask ourselves how we think about these things. Why do our brains go in this direction? Why do I think this is more moral than this? Like one of the Discord conversations we have constantly is like, if the world was more like you, would it be a better place? And like I always say no, because in my head that's literal, and I'm like, well, nobody else is me but me. So like if I made the world only good enough for me, like a bunch of people would be very unhappy. Like so, I can't imagine if the world was more like me, it would be happier. Because I'm me and you're not me. But then other people hear that and they go, I know what's good for humanity. But I don't think anybody knows what's good for 8 billion
Yes.
people.
That doesn't really make sense to my brain either.
Mm-mm.
Like how do you know that?
And
If
they
you
don't-
know
That
that
question-
we're each having our own subjective experience. How do you know? Yeah.
I think that question is more like, what if everybody in the world was like you? Which, in my
Yeah.
opinion, would be very boring because
Yeah, like even in
Yeah.
that sense.
I
Well,
usually
great.
don't
So now
like
we're
it.
like all the same. Yeah,
Mhm.
like I'd rather the
Mhm.
diversity, but the diversity is the chaos. But that's the kind of the fun of it is like I wonder
Also
what
the
will.
beauty.
Yeah, like I think there is
Yeah.
beauty in the chaos.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. The
If
chaos
we're looking
is
at a trade-off or
fertilizer.
pros and
That's where everything
cons.
good and beautiful comes from is the chaos.
Yeah, I agree. It's the
Mhm.
fertilizer. I love that. Yeah. Which is again in the pretty world, what good would that do? Nothing. They'd probably ruin everything. because and I kind
It's
of
so not really beautiful. It's not really, it's so smooth and easy and yeah.
yeah,
Flat.
Not
flat.
chaotic. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It's the
Like, it
illusion.
literally would be pretty even if it just had something to contrast it with. It would make it so much more beautiful,
Mm.
But it's just yeah.
Well, I think Arena
I don't
has
know if
like
that
the
makes sense,
good,
but
probably like the best point of like maybe this is the last hurrah, and so like there is no natural to even like
Mhm.
use, right? There is no nature to have contrast because
Right.
everything around them is just dirt.
We've
It's like it's gone.
iterated
This
it
is
all
it.
out of
So
existence,
everything
yeah.
has to be synthetic. So it's like this is just the best of what we got until we're done.
Mm.
And so it's like, yeah, everything has to be synthetic. So it's like, even if it isn't actually beautiful, they have to accept the illusion. Like they have to live in the illusion
Right.
that it is, because like otherwise, what's your alternative? You get old and crusty, right? That was like a big thing. Like when her and Shay were arguing, Natalia was like, "What do you just want to get old and crusty?" And she's like, "You mean just live?" Right?
Mm.
Which was like Shay's argument, but like in a world where there's only this city and the alternative is getting old and crusty, you don't know that there's like civilization or something. Otherwise, you're looking at like the fucking just ruins, and you're like, you want to live here?
Right.
That
This
makes no
wasteland.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah, from
for the
that
sake
lens,
of like
yeah.
also just matching the wasteland. It's just like no.
Yeah. From
Mhm.
that perspective, I can't I have a hard time wondering why anybody wouldn't choose to be pretty. Like obviously we don't know
Yeah,
what's happening in the books where there are more downsides, but from the movie that we
Especially
saw
since it happens
presented.
at 16 before they have any time to develop their own values,
Mm.
Exactly.
It's like at
Yeah.
16, I was so sold to all of the
Oh my
bullshit,
gosh, I would have done anything to go through this
Mhm.
transformation to become the best
Mhm.
version of myself. Like, are you kidding? Sign me
Mhm.
up. Where do I go?
Mhm.
It seems much more likely that people would maybe find themselves in the boat that David's parents are, where they choose to stop getting the
Mm.
procedures or like stop participating later on in life.
Oh, question: were David's parents pretty? Not the actors, but like were they pretty, or no? They got the reversal.
They got the surgeries, but then they said they got it reversed or
Right.
like they stopped getting them, but then Tally also still pointed out the features. Like she was like, "Oh, you guys look so much like David." So
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder if the cure actually reverses the
Like
prettiness.
undoes it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
but
wonder. It has to, right? Wouldn't
That
that
would
make more
that would
sense?
create more interest in the story,
Yeah,
It
that
would create
does.
more interest.
Yeah, because like I
'Cause
couldn't
I was
Yeah,
tell.
assuming
Like David's mom is so pretty already. I was like, I can't tell. Like, are you fake pretty or pretty? And I was like, well, your eyes aren't glowing, and you don't have any like weird, like distinct things that are making me think. But then I couldn't tell because I'm like, she's just pretty, and then goes back to our original point, like. You're pretty enough that I can't tell if you're pretty. Like I can't tell if you've had the
So-
Are
surgery.
you
supposed to
So-
be ugly because you
Yeah.
look really pretty.
So if the cure does reverse the surgery, right?
Mm.
Like, so it goes back to the original discussion of like the consent thing with Shay, right? So you guys all kind
yeah.
of agreed. You guys kind of all
Ooh.
agreed that it was the right decision to let Shay go,
But then
which
you.
I was like, that wouldn't be the
Mm.
decision in the world because they disagree with that. But okay, so now when in this world that like we're watching, we've been talking about, so Dr. Cable, I think we ran with the assumption that she created it. So like whatever. So she has this world, and then the people in the smoke originally were just trying to live their own lives, right? That like they weren't trying to interfere with the city, but now they have the cure, right? So if the cure ends up being like a reversal, now in the way that we've been talking about it, it does make the smoke the villains, because if they have the reversal, the only way
They'd
they're
have
going to
to
be
go
able to
against
implement
consent.
anything is like by force
Mhm.
to make
Right.
everyone natural.
Exactly.
So
Putting them
I
in the
like,
position of becoming what they are fighting against.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like so
Which
her
is
finding the
interesting.
cure is supposed to be like a hero thing, but then
Yeah.
now I'm looking at him and I'm like, well,
That's just
in accordance to our consent talk, you're technically the villains, because there's no way you're gonna convince the pretties to like
Yeah.
And that's the
do
cycle,
this.
isn't
Why
it?
would
Yeah.
they?
The cycle.
Well, okay, but you know it's funny you say that because now that I'm recontextualizing Shay's experience, I connected to I have a podcast on this, my friend who went through psychosis. Like we knew and their family knew how to get them the medical care they needed because we had openly talked about these things like before it had happened. So we could tell the doctors like, nope, I've already talked to my friend about this 1,000 times. I know what they would want. Like we know what Shay wants. So in some ways, like not giving her the antidote is kind of like letting her live in psychosis. Like she's not in her reality anymore. So when I
That's
first
what I
watched,
was-
when I watched the movie, I was like, oh, this is a really good consent conversation. And then now I'm like, wait.
That's so I didn't want to argue it before, but like, is
Yeah.
it consent if you allow the person
Because the
who
surgery
was-
wasn't done with consent in
Yeah.
the first place. So
And
she
we know-
couldn't
and
consent
we
to the
know
surgery.
what
True.
normal Shay would want. So then, like,
Right.
so then are we saying that the
Pretty
consent
yeah.
of the new Shay, who after this whatever
Totally different. Yeah.
is totally different? But once again, so now like,
But then again,
if-
we're also making that choice as someone who's never had the surgery, who doesn't actually know what it's actually like. We just have this
Right, she could have changed her
Ooh, what if she changed her
mind.
mind?
Yeah, yeah. Like, and where do
Which-
we? At what point does the do we actually decide to strip the agency? At what
is it
point?
a cure? Is it a cure?
Yeah.
If once
Yeah,
again, if Shay
true.
was right, and she looked at everyone, she's like, hey, whoa. You guys are fucking paranoid and weird. You guys need to do this like right now.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Mm.
Right? So it's like, what is is it a cure? Is it just a chemical compound that does
chat-
this?
Mhm.
Chat who's read the book says that the cure just reverses the lesions. So it is, you do get to keep the results of your wonderful surgery.
Okay.
And then the David
So then
Parent thing is
everyone should
people
get
get
the
to
So
have
surgery.
that
Tally's a
essence
villain.
cured.
So Tally's the
Okay.
villain. Cool.
Okay, so David's
Understood.
parents, in case you guys couldn't hear, just stopped getting the surgeries that everyone gets like every 6 months, which means they need toppers every 6 months to maintain that like aesthetic. Okay, that kind
Like
of makes
Botox or something.
yeah, like which kind of makes more sense, right? Because they're not inhuman; they're still human beings.
Right.
So they're still
So
gonna
they're still gonna
need,
age and
yeah, they're still
things,
gonna
yeah.
need work done, which kind of makes sense. And I also assume Cable is like the successor of whoever actually came before her,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
And then it kind of ended up being this world. Yeah, that makes actually a lot of sense. Yeah.
Still failing
mhm.
to see the evil. And can someone in chat tell me where the evil is, please? I don't want to wait to
Well,
watch
yeah,
the
please
movie.
maybe spoil. I don't know. Do we want spoilers
I don't
for
care.
like the rest of the world?
I don't
Are you
care.
Guide
waiting?
is
We're
actually
gonna have to wait
evil, is that what
years
you
to
mean?
see
I don't know if I'm
these.
ever gonna read this. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't
if you
care.
wanna
I'm
spoil,
sure
just-
I'm sure it's the pretty side that's actually evil, right? But it would be
I
actually
think-
super interesting if they switched it. I think
I think-
yeah.
I think it'd
it
have
would
to
add
be.
so
It'd
much
have to be the
texture and
smoke.
flavor. Yeah.
I think books like
And
this
that
are
would-
written very predictably, right? Like the pretties
Yeah.
are going to be the bad
I don't think they're
guys
gonna
and-
give us a twist. Yeah.
I don't think they're. I don't think these books are meant to be that. Like, you know.
Okay, can you theorize? What's the bad? I
Mhm.
need to know what the bad is. Like, what do you
Well,
guys think?
okay,
could
literally, the bad
possibly-
would be the suppression of the self. Look, what's the bad in our world? Not being
But
able to be
that's, like-
ourselves. That is the bad of the
I know,
world.
but that seems really like. I don't know. Like, okay, I guess I'm looking at it from an adult, and this is like a young, like a YA. book,
But
I
yeah,
get it.
looking at it from a young
But I'm looking-
adult, like what
I
message
guess
would
yeah,
they take
be
from
yourself. But wait, is the solution in the book that people still get the pretty surgery, but they have their own like cognizance? Because like honestly, that still doesn't really change very much for me.
Look, there should be no societal pressure to ever get or be an aesthetic. And in this world, you have
Yeah.
got to be pretty.
Mhm.
That's the bad.
Mhm.
I think in any
Okay.
world where you have to be
Okay, fair.
something, that's the bad.
fair,
like,
fair.
I don't want that world here. Like, we certainly don't have that. Like, hopefully, we're fighting against that
Right.
world here. So I guess like that's it. Yeah.
Like the
Well,
good is
then
having
the other
choice,
side, there's
agency.
certain ways that you're expected to, show up as well. There's definitely expectations on you.
Sure.
And you
Yeah.
probably also have to like deny yourself in that world too.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Is like some people just want to be pretty, and in the other world you can't be. In the smoke, you can't be pretty.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good point. I think that's the look in our actual reality. The dilemma is always like you have this, like I always tell chat, you have this perfect community that was born. Like my parents, they were the rebels of their community, made this beautiful family, their happy bubble. They're like, look, kids, I made this perfect world for you. And then I came along and I was like, I hate it. And I was like, I want to change it.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
Mhm.
no. And they're like, what? And they're like, that's painful. That's painful as parents. And I wasn't the only one, but I was like the first one who's like, I don't know about any of this. And that's painful. They're like, we made this perfect world for you. And I was like, you made it for you. And I don't feel comfortable in it. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for them. It just means like I had to make my own. And then when I made my own, I'm so happy, right? But see how far I am from them? They're still my inner circle. I still love them, but I'm like a whole ass plane ride away from my parents. Like, that's a big deal from a girl who lived always within a driving distance of her folks. And that's because I needed to make my own thing. But see, I want to have both. I want them to have theirs and me to have mine, and I want us to visit. I don't want to have to live in a world where like I have to be them and they have to be me. The fear everybody has, even in this election cycle, is somehow whoever's in office is going to make all of us be one way. That's never going to work, and we shouldn't do that. Diversity is king.
No, there's even an idea, like a philosophical idea, that anytime you come up with a theory, you're also coming up with the exact opposite theory. Because that's
Mm.
essentially, going to
Right.
come up from this. There's always going to be
Right.
someone who sees the opposite.
And this
Once
comes
you
down to
come
the
up with
choice,
thing,
right?
you're
Mhm.
also coming up with the opposite, the
Right.
anti-thing,
Right.
necessarily.
I think
Yeah.
the problem with the pretty world is like Ali was saying, like we should be able to pick one or the other, and none of us be the bad guy or the good guy. The idea though is that everyone who picks whatever they pick obviously assumes they're making. That's why we make prescriptions, which is why I try not to.
Right.
Because I'm trying to say, like, I'm not trying to speak for you. Just like a certain standard of healthy would be great. Otherwise, like, you do you, right? Whatever you are. But yeah, I think this book represents kind of like what happens when you need someone to have the right answer. You've decided what it is, and you pick the one that sort of is the ideal. It's not even real. Like, we don't live in a world where we don't judge each other. We don't live in a world where there's hierarchies. We don't live in a world where people are not unfair to the world around them. Like, that human beings are too they're too
I wish
chaotic.
they had like I wonder what like a monk like character would look like in this
Ooh.
world.
Or like
Ooh.
religion in that
Yeah.
Yeah, what
world,
about
like, what is
religion,
it?
right?
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
different beliefs
What
in
would
that
an
way?
enlightened person look like in the pretty world? What would an enlightened person look like in the smoke? You know what I mean? And how would that be a foil
Mm.
to everybody? That would be interesting. Like they need some
Also-
texture, some spice,
Yeah.
I will
It's very
say Dr.
bland.
Cable clearly can't be that evil, because if she was, she would have murked Tally. Like, no pretty surgery for you. Like, what do you mean you get to live in a mansion?
Yeah.
The fact that she didn't just kill Tally, rest in peace. We don't know what happened to
Yeah.
her.
Well, didn't she make
gave her-
Tally?
I want
A-
to believe she really
sheep?
believed her. Yeah.
Didn't she make Tally?
well,
But like, isn't the idea is like?
technically.
But Tally, she had the scar, so she clearly still
Yeah,
is a
what was that
freak with
about?
her.
Yeah.
Twist.
She wasn't
the one.
fully
Mm.
She's the one
she,
she
yeah, she
learned
was
how
able to
to-
resist.
Yeah,
See,
that's-
this is why I
that's
don't wanna be
right.
the main
Totally
character in a
one
story.
thing.
The main characters never get the real story. It's always the side characters. See, if I was a side character in this world, I'd be eating food while the rest of the people were fighting a war. And I'm like, nope, like, I don't want to fight this war. You guys figure it out. Let me know. But see how people fantasize about being like the main character? I'm like, why you want to be Tally? Like, what's the benefit of being this girl in this story?
Yeah.
I don't see it, girl.
If anything, being Shay seems like the win. Like, I had my agency, I got to live the life, and now I also get to have like
Yeah,
the perks of
honestly.
the other life.
Honestly.
Some people
Yeah.
wanted like their own Shay story. Like some people were in the reviews were talking about like, I want to see a whole movie of Shay. And I'm like, she is the
Yeah.
most well-rounded character, I think.
Yeah, she's the
She
most
seems
developed,
like more
I
of the
think.
main. Like, she would have fit the main character way
Agreed.
way better.
And do you know why
Yeah.
she's, I think
Yeah,
what
me
it is she has a hobby.
Mm.
She has a
Ooh,
hobby. Nobody
yeah.
has hobbies in this fucking world except Shay. Shay's the only
Something that
person.
she
Well,
is
Tally was
into.
like a hacker, technically. They just didn't really like focus.
They didn't
into
focus
it
in on it enough. It wasn't
No.
enough.
No.
Yeah, she
The
just
idea was,
somehow
like, she
knows how
could-
to do it. Just by
Yeah.
going like this, and it's like, can you explain what you're doing, please?
Right.
So we-
How do you?
knows all
What
the-
is
Well,
that?
no,
What's
they-
happening?
They said when her and Paris were talking, she's like, "You were the first person I met, and we used to do this together, and we've always done this." So like, they were always like the rebellious ones, but like, so like, her thing was like she could hack the system to like break the window or make a cupcake
Right.
or whatever it may be. Like, she could
Mm.
rig the academy. But they never really like focused on it. They just kind of made her a blob character.
Yeah,
like,
that's
let's-
Yeah,
that,
that
was
wasn't
confusing to
enough.
me.
was.
Like, why were you being
Mhm.
rebellious, but then wanting to be so part of the group? It's like it's the typical kind of like, oh, maybe that's the point. Is that we think we want something we don't even want because look at the way we're living our life. Like, it's not like she's living her life to set it up to be a perfect pretty. Like, she's breaking into things, she's breaking the rules. She's literally like, they could deny me my surgery. Why are you even taking the risk if
Right.
you want it so bad?
Yeah.
But then maybe there is something to that. I've broken up plenty of laws related to grass in my life. You know, maybe it's just we take the risks because we hope like we're not going to get caught or it's not going to be us, or we actually think it's unfair too. Like, why should she get in trouble for the ways that she broke some of the rules, or why should I get in trouble for having fun with grass? everyone should be a plant mom, you know, like maybe it's that. Maybe who knows what it is. But she was confusing as a character. She was a rebel,
Yeah.
but wanted to be a part of the group
So badly too. It was
so
like she-
badly,
think-
bro.
I do think it makes sense though, because she's a rebel against like boring school stuff. She's
Oh,
like,
that's
I
a good
want an extra cupcake, but like, I mean, why wouldn't she still want to be part of larger society? You
Yeah.
know, she
Sure,
thinks that's
sure.
all adulthood has to offer her. So I do think that makes sense. It's like
Sure.
the
Yeah.
rebellious kid who still goes off to college and gets a freaking job. Because I mean, what else are you gonna
Yeah.
do, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I could see
And
that.
maybe they are attempting to show her deconstruction, you know, but it doesn't translate very well, you know. Like maybe they're attempting
Yeah,
to show how
her
she goes from that.
flip flopping over the course of like 4
Yeah.
days or however long this movie takes place.
20
Yeah.
just
minutes
doesn't-
essentially.
Really
of the movie.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't do it. Hmm.
I think the technical timeline confused me because I know her and Shay were together for 2 months. Paris left 2 months. Shay came into it,
Mm.
But,
but
the
the part-
smoke,
the
getting
smoke
to the smoke
was like so confusing. Was that like 2 days, 3 days? I'm just so confused. And then David is in
It
love
felt
with her.
like it
and I'm
happened really quick.
so quick, so confusing. And yeah, I do agree with hot bald guy. We're like, why are we trusting her all of a sudden? Like, who is this girl? And David's like,
Right.
and I love how David's like, I don't judge you for your past. He's like, you did what? And I was like, nah. You said you don't judge her.
No, and then David being the leader, bald guy was like, "Hey, why do we trust her?" And he's like, "Well, she made it here alone. She has to. We need her, obviously." It's like because
No, bro.
she did it.
He's
What?
like,
Like,
bro,
what?
stop trying to cock block me,
Yeah,
bro. She's the
she's
first girl that
good
came in here, bro.
hiking and camping, so they need her. Yeah, no, that. Also, wouldn't that the fact that Corliss was the only one who his name was Corliss, Curly, that man, bald man.
Mhm.
He was like the fact that nobody else was like, hey, she probably had help, and also what
He
is
was
like.
really fast too. No, you're good now. I trust you. At the end, you know.
Yeah, at the end, he's like, "No, I was
like,
wrong."
right.
He's like, "No, I was wrong
Yeah.
about what I thought." about
Why?
it." No,
Were
weren't.
you?
were
How do
literally
you
right.
know that? A character like you would never admit
No.
that. Would never.
He was also right.
He was my
also correct.
favorite.
Well, exactly. And he was right because his intuition told him so. Like he should have stayed knowing that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, no,
No.
she's sacrificing herself now, so
Right.
everything changes.
Also, how
Oh,
well, you guys talked about it earlier, but I didn't get in on it about the they're going through the surgery and the glass breaks, the fire,
Yeah.
whatever. How the f did he not kill everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plot armor.
Right.
Yeah,
They're
plot
only
armor,
attempting to
literally.
Yeah.
Like, did he know that the surgery would like? How did he know that the robots would stop? Because the
Yeah.
fact that there wasn't a abort on the surgery, and then they ended up like not getting it instead of it malfunctioning and just stabbing into their brains
Botching
or whatever.
them.
Because the little lobotomy stick was like
Right
getting
there.
close to their eyeballs.
Oh, and the
And
fact
then
that
it
they were even
stopped.
awake, like, are they sedated during the actual? I assume
Yeah.
actually, like, is that just like her way of
It looked
torturing
like they were
them?
scared or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I figured she
I
was like,
assume they get. So I'm assuming the lobotomy pick goes in first and sedates them, and then everything else goes in. 'Cause
Everything
they-
else
'cause that-
happens.
yeah.
interesting.
Hmm.
Okay, but for real though, we have pretty surgeries. It would make your life easier. Pretty privilege is a thing.
I have thought
Mhm.
about it,
Yeah,
but
but they're not free for
Yeah, they're
you
just
at-
expensive.
True.
So
Oh my gosh.
Right.
My friend was quoted like 28K for a nose job in California, and I was like, huh? What do you mean?
What?
Like
Gotta go to Lebanon.
expensive. Well,
Turkey.
maybe not right now.
Go to Turkey.
And then like the recovery process and all of that too. Like that is
Oh,
no
yeah, in the
joke.
movie
I have
it seems like
I
friends.
would
they
do it
just
for work, and that's just
instantly
They just bounce
recover.
back. Yeah, no, like recovering from like a BBL or
It's a-
lipo or
it's a lot.
something. Like
It's a
that
lot.
shit is a lot.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like risk
Chat-
of complications.
Chad says in the book, Tally accidentally runs into the primitive tribe of humans, like the ones that can be found in the Amazon, on her way to the orchid patch. Orchid? Orchid?
So there
Yeah.
okay.
So, like, in
So
other
there
words,
is
there
more
is
of the world.
There's like the people who are like the uglies forever, who like Rusties are old. I thought Rusties were back in the day people.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
Well,
Rusties
you
are
said
like-
primitive. You said they
Oh.
live primitive. So
Yeah, yeah. So then there's like the forever uglies who like live out and they're busy. Who wants to do that? Like, who wants to do that? I don't do that now. We don't do that now. You could do that
No.
now. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it
Like-
doesn't seem. Yeah, that like it doesn't seem like like a noble choice. It seems like a fake noble, false nobility, where you're like, I'm gonna go live in destitute, and it's like,
Okay.
well, why?
There's a place in San
Right, you don't
Diego.
have to.
Especially making that choice at 16 doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, as an adult who's like seen a few things I could get making that choice for sure, but not a 16-year-old.
Mm-mm. Do you guys know there's a place in San Diego? I always forget what it's called. All my friends went camping there, and I didn't go with them. Kesha has a music video where she
Camp
features it.
Marston?
No,
Is
say,
it Camp
but I bet you
Marston?
know what it is. It's way far in the desert where no cops go. Everyone knows it is like this great. There's like,
Josh?
No.
Joshua Tree?
no, that's no. Like out in the desert, no cops go. Like no civilization is there. Anyways, my friends went like 12, 15 years ago, and it was like they're like, oh my god, it's amazing, like springs and natural things, and it's great. Now that the internet exists and people heard about it, it is
Not the
trashed.
same, huh?
It is horrible. And all these people who just want to be lawless and evil, like just evil in the philosophical way, went out there to just trash it and abuse it. And I think about that all the time where it's like there's this illusion that if you leave humans alone with no government intervention, they'll just do the right thing. No, they will
Why?
not. And like that's
Why
the
would
thing.
they?
What does that even mean? Do the right thing? I don't know. There's this also to reference it, an anime called Kilo's Journey. You guys should check it out. The first episode alone is a great example of what it could be to like not only bubble hop, but living in a world where you trust humans to do the right thing is a very interesting idea. Because like the right thing is so subjective. And I think that's the illusion once again of like the free thinker compared to the one who's controlled is like there has got to be a balance between people who think they're doing the
Yeah.
right thing. Like, there's a guy on TikTok who just records his stop sign and how many people run the stop sign. And I'm like, dude, every car. And in California, we call it a California roll, like a California roll. Like you
Yeah,
roll,
you just roll through. You
roll
slow
through.
down.
And bro, but some of these people aren't even rolling. They're speeding. And I'm like, you gotta slow down a little bit. What if there's somebody there? And I'm sitting here like, man, I can't even get adults to stop at a stop sign. Like, thank God they at least stop at red lights most of the time.
It's
like,
that
that's-
individuation versus participation, like opponent process that
It's the
like
gro-
actually finding the middle between them is the key, but it's very difficult.
Right.
It's the grocery cart like theory. Like if you
Yes.
return your grocery cart, you're a good person.
Yeah.
If you just leave it, you're a bad person.
I
It's like,
hate
there's
that.
n-
I
I'm
love
like,
it.
get creative. There is a million ways that people
To
sorry,
deter-
I hate
yeah.
that so much.
Return
Yeah.
the cart.
Yes, return the cart, but like
But that
there's a
doesn't make you a
million
good
reasons
person
a
in
good-
every situation.
exactly
Right.
a good person would choose to not. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would love to live in an ideal world where someone said, like, can you help me return this card? I actually have like a disability. For sure, bro. Like a
Mhm.
good person's not going to care about. They're already going there. But like return the cart. It's just like that's the idea of like the simple things go a long way or the small things. But that's why I say like don't be attached to human beings being inherently anything other than human. They can't be. We are like
Yeah.
simply what we are. And so holding on to that attachment will make you resentful and bitter of a world that was never meant to be perfect. It only is what it's going to be. And that's why we escape into these books. And that's also what these books are meant to sort of represent is that this illusion of this perfection in this world isn't real. That's why it's a trap because you think you're going to go there and be hedonistic for the rest of your life and you're not. Like the truth is like you crying on the, your apartment floor is a part of the process of you getting to the next stage of life, which is where creativity can come from, which is where like you overcome. It's not good, but some part of suffering in life is the gift. It's just you have to suffer wisely. I think a lot of people suffer unwisely and they're like, why aren't I getting better? And it's like, well, okay, cutting off your arm isn't suffering wisely, but like learning how to go to work on time is a part of that suffering wisely. Like, doing the things that life already makes hard enough without adding that extra harm onto it and without escaping into like being pretty. Again,
Mhm.
imagine all the things you could do if you weren't too busy trying to be pretty.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is a different show. Have any of you seen the trailer or watched Kevin Can Go Fuck Himself?
I'm watching it right now with my partner.
I've heard about
Dude,
it.
I finished watching it last week. In terms of bubble hopping and in terms of like a discussion about a show, watch that. I would love to have a
Bro.
conversation.
I've seen
because
so many different takes on it, like that are very
me and
different
me,
from
me,
each
me and my
other.
girl are having a small little debate on like the types of abuse that I think are being like pursued. I don't think there's physical
Kevin
abuse, but I
versus
think it's a
his
bunch of
mom.
different.
Yeah.
Mm.
Such a good show.
Okay.
I loved
I want to talk to you about
every
it. When
episode.
I'm done watching it, I'll invite whoever wants
That's
to
a
watch
good
it.
suggestion.
Yeah. Whoever wants to talk
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
we should do it because I would really like to. Because I'm not there yet. I
that
haven't met
sounds
his mom yet, but I'm enough episodes in that I'm like, man, this show could cause a lot of divorces. Because this is somebody's life, bro. Somebody is watching this show and being like,
Mhm.
is this my life? And I just kept, I looked at my husband and I was like, may a love like this never find me. He's like, you're married. I was like, I know, but may a love like this never find me.
What is
The
it
s-
on?
And
What are you watching
Netflix.
it on?
Netflix.
It's on
Oh, it's
Netflix.
on Netflix.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
switch between, so I'm not gonna do any like, so the switch between, because like the whole bubbles like discussion, right?
Yeah.
Have the sitcom world is its own bubble,
Totally.
and then the drama world is its own bubble, and then I can't wait till you get more into it because the
Ugh.
break it's a phenomenal show, phenomenal show, and I think they ended it. It's like a 2-season, just like that's the show. 10 out of 10.
I'm stoked.
10
I'm
out of
stoked.
10.
So wait, if we discuss
Mhm.
it, should we watch both seasons? That would make
Yeah,
more
yeah.
sense. Okay.
Or if you want to watch one season, discuss the season, and then watch the other season, discuss
Okay.
it. Doesn't matter.
But I think you're right,
But-
by the way. Let me tell you, as a person who's watched her girlfriends go through divorces, they married a sitcom husband and it wasn't
Mhm.
working with their future life. And that was like, oh, like you want to be an art film and he wants to be a TV
Mhm.
dad. And like, this is not going to work. Like, you
Oh,
know?
there's so much more. I don't like the main character. Like I'm like, you're your own fucking villain too here. You're not fucking
For
By
sure.
the end of it, yeah, you'll I don't know.
Oh,
I
I'm
love
stoked.
it.
I'm
Great show.
stoked. Okay, I'm excited.
Great,
We'll definitely
great,
give that in
great.
mind. Okay, wait. So now with that said, I know we're coming up on time. It's like 1 a.m. my time. So I'm okay with us getting towards the end. Is there a way we want to wrap up the discussion on Uglies?
Did we get any spoilers from the chat? Because honestly, yeah, if we could wrap it up with like someone telling us what's really like,
Yeah, what's
Who's
did
bad?
anybody
Who's the evil side?
yeah,
Did
and
anyone-
honestly, just like what's the end result? Because I just don't know what the end result is unless it's everyone becomes pretty and then no legions.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like but that also seems like antithetical to like the whole point of like the
Right,
movie.
right. Then you're just having your cake and eating it too. So
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
that's
kind of like the ending of Encanto or whatever, where they're like, let's rebuild the house without powers. And then also we have powers again, so we learn nothing. It's like, okay, well.
That's so many like adolescent movies though. It's like you think that you're doing the virtuous thing and then your reward is that you get the satisfaction of your flesh as well. So
right,
Yeah.
right.
it's like the reward is always, ooh, you get to have the good feeling also. Which is
I do-
interesting.
Right.
It's like very
I'm gonna
culturally.
read the synopsis of the Uglies because I just want to know what's up. And like, I do hope for the creators of this movie that they can make a better sequel. Because if they can pull off like a good sequel, then I think it'll turn around. Like,
Oh,
I think it'll be good for them.
I'm reading
financially.
a Dr. Cable character analysis. So apparently, according to this website, fans in the chat can argue with me or this website. Dr. Cable has full agency over her brain and doesn't have the lesions like everybody else. And she's not exactly perfect. She's too tall, too strong, has flat eyes. She's been capable of flashing a genuine smile. Excuse me. She's cunning, manipulative, and is willing to use other people as pawns in order to move things forward. Perfect politician, honestly. Her goal was to keep Maddie from taking the brain lesions as, that result from the pretty operations. So she attempted a procedure that would alter Aze's memories, Aze the husband. Her overarching goal, in other words, is to do anything necessary to preserve the life of the city as it is and stamp out anything different, individualistic, or what might complicate how life in the city is supposed to be. She's a conservative. That's what I'm hearing. Like, she's a fascist.
Okay.
Not,
Yeah,
that's a
that's
joke.
she's a
Shout out to my
fascist.
conservatives. But, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean to me it seemed like capitalism versus communism kind of.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not, people. Okay. See, that's an illusion too, as if a system would change
Oh,
people.
yeah, how is
People are the
pretty
problem.
world capitalism? Like, what?
Yeah,
is
what part
the-
of the pretty? No, the
Yeah,
pretty
I
world
mean,
is the
communism.
communism. The pretty world
And
is the
okay,
communism.
Okay, yeah, I could
Oh.
see it being that way. I just interpreted it that way because it was very indulgent, very like materialistic.
No, the
Yeah,
capitalism
it's
would
like
be
the
like-
values of capitalism, but without actually.
yeah.
Like, who has? I guess Dr.
Yeah.
Cable has the capital, but then what are the
Mm.
profits towards? Because she's just putting it back into the
Power.
city. So
Yeah.
The capitalists
not
are
really-
the capitalists are the smoke because they're like they're getting fetching resources and making and building and doing the whole thing, and the value of gloves is so important because like they made that's their capital is like, so it is
Right,
technically,
yeah.
like,
Okay, that's
freedom-
really
the
That makes
freedom
sense.
and-
Yeah, that actually
because
makes more sense.
I switched it in my interpretation, but
And
that
the
is
other
interesting.
city, yeah, the city's like communism, where it's like, hey, if we just all have the same thing and no one it feels like less than the
Right.
other, everyone should be happy, right? But
Yeah,
like we know
the
that that can't
equalizer.
happen because we need
Yeah.
uniqueness, and the uniqueness is actually like at the end of the
Where
day,
the
I guess
happiness comes
uniqueness is the
from.
value, and that's the capital. And so if you
Yeah.
strip uniqueness and everything is the same, then boom, there you go. You can be
Mm.
happy now.
Mhm.
Wow,
It
we
seems like
got
in a
pretty
lot of
deep from like this movie that was like so like I
Yeah,
think
it was
like
so
horribly
bad.
fucking random. But we took it pretty deep.
Well, I knew that. I really, even though I hated the movie, I was like, but there's still obviously like very good room for like a really good conversation
The
about
ideas
it.
that they're playing with are bound to
Yeah.
lead to a good
Interesting.
conversation.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
knowing
Yeah.
what you know, and even knowing that potentially the city is like the evil, like do you get like what would you guys choose in this world specifically?
Pretties.
Right? Like that's
Yeah. I'm
I
going
it's
mean,
pretty for sure.
okay, so if I have full knowledge of what's gonna happen to me, like the
yeah.
lesions and stuff,
Yeah.
I don't. I really want to believe that I would not pick the city.
Yeah, if knowing about the lesions, that might deter me just because of knowing who I am. Like,
Like,
I'm very
wouldn't
much like
yeah.
anti-plastic surgery and stuff like that for myself.
Mhm.
So if I have the full knowledge that, but it would depend on what my family's doing. Whatever the people close to me are doing would greatly influence what I would do.
The assumption is everyone you know is going to this, and it's only a
Oh,
vast
well
minority of
then
people that are choosing
give me
not.
my brain lesions,
Yeah.
papa. I will go join.
If okay, maybe, but classically in my life, I don't care about rebelling against my family. Like I love them, but like I've done it, you know. And also like the plastic surgery thing, I've actually thought about it just for work, but the reason I don't want to get it is because like my values in my personal life are not for it. Like I want to value myself as I am. Like I really, really want to. And so like I'm choosing not to get plastic surgery or even like Botox, that kind of thing, even though it would probably benefit like my profession and my job. So I really think I have good evidence to say that I would probably pick, the smoke.
Brittany?
If it okay, first of all, if it helps, Maiden, literally this whole time I was like, Maiden looks like she's a pretty, bro. Like your skin is flawless. Like I have so many wrinkles on my
It's
forehead. My
nice
husband calls
ring
me Gordon.
light.
Listen, my husband calls me Gordon Ramsay because of all the wrinkles on my forehead. And I need you to know that he is absolutely right. That is true. And I know my audience has been very helpful. They're like, if you want to get rid of them, guys, nobody got time for that. But also only because it sounds inconvenient. If it was convenient to do things, I'd probably do more things. So if being pretty was convenient, I am a very like, what's easiest, but also what gets me the most. So if I weigh the pros and cons, I think realistically, I think I'm arrogant enough to believe like, fuck those lesions, try to control me, bitch. Let's go, make me pretty. Like I have this arrogance in my brain that I'm like, oh, please, like I wouldn't be able to like beat the lesions. So maybe I would do it just for that. But yeah, it depends on what everyone else is doing, and I have no reason to not. Like if I had to pick between specifically the smoke and being pretty, it's like I'm only gonna live like 70 years, right? I'm gonna go be pretty. Like with peace and love. Like I don't want to make
And
it
the
work in this
world is
world.
gone to
The world is
shit. I
gone. The
mean,
world is
In a
fucked.
way, it might be easier in the city to just do your own thing.
Yeah.
Sort of like
Exactly.
and
smoke,
like all of my
kind of feels
needs
like
are met. I have my
pressure.
food, I have a place to
Yeah,
live.
like
Like
you
it
could
just
really
feels like
zen out. I feel like you could lesions and all.
Yeah, I feel like
Like,
you could figure
yeah.
it out. But see, is that just our
I feel like there'd
arrogance?
be that weird interpersonal dynamic starting to happen in the smoke because you're all in this thing with this ideology and you're fighting for that. And then what happens if you win? What do you do? What do you work
Yeah,
for
like
then?
if I'm
Then
in this,
what? Then what are we doing?
Yeah.
yeah, like if I'm in the smoke, can I go chill and be on my own, or no? Do I have to like participate in family chores and
Right.
shit?
It seems like you have to work pretty much like dawn till dusk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
What
mean,
about you,
I'm
Genevieve?
in society. Yeah.
No, I'm choosing pretty for
Pretty.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Lena?
sure.
Oh no, you said
In
it
this world.
depends on your family.
Yeah.
Okay, then and then Brittany, from your earlier question, because I don't know if did it make a difference for you that it was a man who wrote the book? because I feel like you brought up, and I felt like you were a
Hmm.
little like annoyed, but I didn't know. But we talked about like the theory of like what, but I
I
didn't
think
know
I
like
was
if that
shocked.
made a difference to you. Yeah.
No, I think I was shocked because I'm so used to being a woman that usually is kind of
Mhm.
living vicariously through her characters. But
Mhm.
then when you explained your perspective, I was like, oh, I can imagine like a dad writing this then, or like a man, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Now I wonder his political persuasions. Now I wonder like where is his brain coming from? Because usually, believe it or not, a lot of these women who write these books are conservatives. They're religious
Yeah.
women
Mhm.
who grow up like kind of they want to make something of their lives, but they don't know how. And so I would be interested to see that perspective. I've read almost every dystopian related book on the market. Funny enough, I don't know why I missed these ones. I don't know what time they came out. I don't know if I was too old and I missed the mark. But
They came out in 2005.
what the fuck? I was reading every book at
So,
that
like,
point. That's so weird.
perfect time.
How did I
yeah.
not? How did I not read? I was reading everything
But I
else
never
at the
heard of
time.
them in that time period either.
That's
The
so
Uglies
weird.
might not have been so marketable in 2005. Like the
Yeah, maybe
title, The
not.
Uglies.
Yeah.
2005
It
was
hadn't gotten-
peak, like
Yeah.
being skinny, like
Yeah.
Victoria's Secret, having a fat ass as an insult, like 2005.
Right.
Yeah, the movie
Yeah.
came out
Well,
at
we
the
were okay. We were
maybe
just
right.
getting out of that because J Lo, you know, and her
He was
badass.
Mhm.
We were like,
just starting.
yeah, we were literally
yeah.
just like, oh,
Yeah,
can I
because Twilight came out in
actually like my
2005.
curvy body? Maybe.
Because like I was
Yeah.
reading Twilight in public high school in like 2005, and I remember kids in my school being like, "What are you reading? It's so big, and like, why are you reading that?" And then of course everybody was reading it, but I was reading all the books at that time, so I can't believe I missed this one. But yeah, I don't remember it at all. I don't remember anybody reading it at all, which is interesting. But yeah, that's the only thing I was thinking. Author is a Democrat. Oh, even more interesting. Oh, but there is a pendulum swing, or like there is
What
a
kind of a
horseshoe.
Democrat?
There is
Yeah, I
a
was gonna
there is
say.
a there is a horseshoe between conservatives that are anti-plastic surgery and like hippies that are anti-plastic surgery and like liberals that are anti-plastic surgery.
Yeah.
So there actually is an overlap.
Yeah.
Twain
That is
shall meet.
interesting.
Yes.
There is an
Mhm.
overlap. Yeah. Yeah.
Just like
Um,
with fascism, there's also an overlap with fascism.
Of course
on both
there
ends.
is. Like, that's what I say.
Yes. Most
Humans-
things are going to
Bro,
be.
That's why I say the road to hell is paved in all these good intentions. We have so many good intentions for the world. And I really wish we would mind our own business a little bit more. Just a little bit.
Mhm.
Not all of it, obviously, but just a little bit.
Mhm. I
So
agree with
funny.
that.
Yeah, but that's it. Did any other questions on the story? Any statements you want to make? Oh, I think Arena, were you trying to say something earlier and we cut you
I
off?
was going to just say something from the comments from our book reader has provided information that the city isn't the only city in the world.
Oh,
And in fact, they are
Oh.
weird for having the division of pretties and uglies, which makes me curious about moving from city to city.
oh, that
Can I
changes
go get
it.
the pretty operation, right?
Oh, that
Yeah.
changes
This
it.
changes the game a little bit.
We need to
Mhm.
have
I
a
like
part
that.
two discussion. Someone needs
Interesting.
to give us a synopsis. We read the
I
synopsis
like.
and we discuss the synopsis of like this book in
Yes.
comparison.
We need to know.
Oh, that's
That is
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, see, that does change
I like
things.
Sleeve's question too about which group would have the best love life. That's interesting.
I was gonna
Oh,
wonder
he
what
and I were
dating
Neither.
was
talking
like.
about this when we watched
Do
it
they have
before.
drugs? Do like the pretties have drugs? Like, are they on Molly?
Probably.
Like,
Yeah,
They
that's
were
what I want to
drinking,
know.
so
Or, like,
like,
Are they
brain
drinking at their
lesions?
parties?
Anorexia
Like,
dysfunction drugs and everything.
Yeah, probably. Well, because look, at the end of the world, like the people in the smoke, let's be real. Is that love or is it just who's available?
yeah,
Mhm.
You know,
slim pickings.
you know what I'm saying?
yeah, you're very
May-
limited.
You're very limited, so of course you're gonna fall in love. Like I hate to say it, but like that is kind of why it works in a lot of places. Because like eventually you're pretty content with whoever's available, and you make
Yeah,
it
you
work.
just need
Yeah,
someone
yeah. Love
to
with people.
partner
There.
with.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
actually why I think we are having an issue with love right now because there's so many options. Nobody knows what to do, which is why you have to pick values. Like, guys, use your values. Just think
Mhm.
about what story do you want? Do you want to be with a partner
Mhm.
who does XYZ? Just think about how your life's going to look and then do that.
That does make you think about like dating in the pretty world. Like, if everyone's the same and there's no and the standard is like one standard, like what makes you choose to marry someone or like decide to have kids
Yeah.
or even date an individual person if there's like the legions are there, everyone looks exactly the same. Like, what is like the reason that I'm choosing this individual person versus just like
Yeah, that's a good question.
like
Yeah,
is it a status thing? Like
also
maybe being a parent, like
determined. It's kind of determined for us based on where we are at, you know.
Yeah, maybe
Which
it's like
makes
a pairing thing. Maybe there's a system where it pairs you the
Yeah.
best genetic outcome for like offspring or
Mm.
something, and it's like easier. And they're like, cool. And then we get along with them because everyone's kind of like similar enough. And it's like, I'm not gonna get to. Maybe there's even not even technically monogamy.
Yeah, they really did not explore at all how family building happens or like family planning or
Yeah,
anything. So that's
that's
something
so
I'd be really
curious.
interested in.
We didn't even
Mhm.
know there were other cities.
Yeah,
So I feel,
that's
Right.
I
true.
feel like they could have mentioned that like once or twice.
Maybe they're not going to
Hey, there's
explore it in the
other-
movies. Maybe in the
I
movies.
think it's a reveal because I think it's in
Oh,
okay,
the book
okay.
that you find
Comes
out.
out
or
later.
But like,
something.
does
You're
Tally
like,
maybe not
whoa.
even know? Does Tally and them not even maybe
Right.
know?
They probably keep that a
Oh.
secret.
Well, that's extra
from-
bad. You can't have a government. What is this,
Mm.
North Korea? Like other people exist outside of you,
Mm.
bro.
Right,
So that's
right.
super
It's like,
bad.
it's
That
like
makes
on
it
Titan.
super
Like
bad.
they think they're on this island, but
Yes.
sorry,
See?
Attack on Titan.
See?
Or you get a happy pill, a delusion pill that makes you happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why there's always
Hmm.
that fear. Like people always say, like, I'd rather have the harshness of reality than the convenience of a lie. And I'm like,
Until you're in the harshness of reality, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I fucking forgot.
this shit sucks.
sucks."
This
So
sucks.
yeah, so it's about that balance. Like, how much of life can you really handle, and how much of it?
When you're out of it, you love to make meaning out
Oh
of the
my
suffering,
God.
and it was the most beautiful, wonderful thing ever. And then, like 2 seconds later, you're back in, and you're like, "For sure." Yeah.
Listen to me. When I went on my trailer life and I lived in a trailer and I was traveling around, I just remember thinking like, oh, fuck this rent, fuck this apartment. If I could just have this trailer and travel around, it'd be great. Then I did that and I was like, if I could just have a fucking shower in a convenient
Yeah.
space without feeling like, and then now I have an apartment and I will work for the rest of my life
I
80
can
hours a
only
week
have
to
a
never do that
shower.
again. I will tell you, I will never not remember what it was like not showering as conveniently as I do now. What a blessing. Worth it. Just whatever I have to take to do that. What a blessing. Because
Mhm.
it might go away one day, girl. Do not
True.
take for
Mm.
granted showering. Because holy
No,
shit.
it's
That
like
is a
being
good
judged.
motivator. You get your life to a place where it's so good that you don't want to see that go away.
Right. You don't want to go back. You don't
It's
want
kind of
to.
like when people like doubt your opinion or like judge you for not having as struggled as hard as them or as much as them. They're like, well, no, your life has less meaning, or the things that you've done
Right.
have less meaning because you didn't
Oh
go through
gosh,
what I went through.
Right.
It's
fall
like, I
prey to
don't think
that
that's how that works.
foolishness. I fall prey to that foolishness all the time. Like,
Mhm.
no, of course everybody's like life sucks for everybody.
It's just
Or like
like
thinking that like if like no, my kids, I want to raise my kids within the struggle because then that makes you like with adversity so that they're
Totally.
better people. It's like you could just teach them to be better people, or they could just like grow up. They
Yeah.
don't have to be struggling or like
well,
trauma
they're
or
gonna naturally
adversity.
struggle. Like that's the irony. Is
gonna
like,
be
oh,
enough.
we'll
Still
find a
gonna
way to
be things
struggle.
that they. Yeah, there's gonna be struggles
Not have to
regardless.
give any excess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do believe that there is an optimal amount of like suffering.
Oh, for
Yeah, there's
sure.
a like
That makes
specific
them
amount
into
that
better people.
motivates you
I don't know
and
what
wants
that
you to be
amount
better.
is.
Funny you say that they're gonna find their own way to struggle in this world, right? In this world, why did the uglies, one, feel ugly and two, feel less than, right? If the idea is that these people are only better because of this surgery, right? And then
Mm.
you're already gonna get this surgery eventually anyways, right? This whole idea that you're not gonna feel less than. It kind of feels like they created their own struggle because there's literally no reason for you to feel less than. You're on par with everyone who's your age. You're on par with everyone who's in your school, and then you're going to be on par with everyone who's in your future society. Where was this like weird feeling? Like
You
where
know,
like this came from? Yeah, like
we needed a sassy gay guy who was like, "Ah, I'm gonna be prettier than you and I'm pretty. But just so you know, right now, I'm still the best of the uglies.
Yeah.
Like we needed a mean girl in the ugly group who was
Yes,
like,
that would have been
yeah.
I might be ugly, but I'm the best of the uglies. Like something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, the
I
fact
mean,
that
we
there
build
was
these
no
on a pretty
bullies.
surgery.
Wait,
No
wait. Too many
bullies.
people talking. Too many people talking. Hold on, Arena. What?
Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say the fact that there was no bullies. You're right. There
Oh,
needed
yeah,
to
there were
be
no bullies.
somebody to justify the boohoo woe is me thing that Tally was feeling.
Yeah. Okay. And Jen, what did you say? I missed it.
What the hell did I say? Oh, the idea that like I would imagine if we had some mean girls in there that there would be competition over like who needs less surgery, right? Like, oh well, I only have to change
Ooh.
my nose, but like you're gonna have
That's
to
what I was
change.
gonna say.
Good point,
Have
actually.
you guys read that book by Dr. Seuss, The Sneetches? Have you
Yeah.
heard of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
the star belly sneeches where like this guy comes and he's like, oh, if you put a star in your belly, you're a better sneech.
Yeah.
So then all the star bellies are like, we're better than you. And then then he has the like star off machine. And so then they end up switching. Okay, now the good people are the ones without the stars. And so it's like, how funny would that be like in this world? It's like, okay, it ends up switching, right? So it's like, oh, all the like pretty people decide to like take the thing and now it's the better thing and the socially pressured thing to like be ugly and
Yeah.
then all the like
Right.
like
Mhm.
You're
I don't
now
know.
like a rebel if you become pretty.
Right, where so it's like the actual like value is in the uniqueness maybe and not just the actual thing itself.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like the concept of trends is so funny, like in regards to that, where, when you see somebody who fell for a trend in the 70s and you can tell because they can't get rid of it and then it ages them, like you almost get aged. We're like, oh, like I remember this trend, so I'm dating you. Like I'm dating. That's why when people wear vintage, it's so interesting. But there's a way, we pick and choose. That's what I'm saying. Like we're all playing these games naturally. Even children do it. Like I see kids. I was a professional nanny for years. Like these babies just do it. They have these games they play and these hierarchies and these bullying. And I'm like, hey, where did you see that? Like, who even taught you that? And it's subtle, bro. Humans are so subtly picking up on so many things, and we don't even think about it. We really don't. And it starts with like babies watch you eat and they imitate how you react to food. Like, even that, or even the fact that you talk about, oh, she was so fat the other day. She was so fat. You say that
And
enough.
not even to mention epigenetics that are passed down for like
100%.
generations. Like trauma can be passed down genetically.
100%. 100%. I fully, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's that's what I'm saying. These kids, they didn't have the lesions, they didn't have the surgeries. So where was the humanity part of it? Well, they weren't acting like people.
Yeah, also, Arena, like what Arena was saying, it's actually way more weird than like we're thinking. So, in this world where everyone's superficial as fuck, they're looking at themselves all day, right? That's all they're doing is like looking at
Yes.
pictures of themselves and what they could be and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like the movie probably would have done better if instead of focusing on the city or the smoke, they focused on like the school, the academy, and what people were thinking to get into the psychology of the people. Because in the academy, there should have been nothing but bullies. And it should have had us thinking like, because we discussed it earlier, like there has to be a hierarchy event like in the world. And maybe the hierarchy will be like, well, I did less surgery than you. And so
Yeah,
honestly, the fact that there were no bullies is probably a huge strip to the reality from the show. Because, like, in terms of humanity, like, yeah, you're right. Why wouldn't these people who are superficial, they know they're going to get plastic surgery, they're looking at themselves all day, but there's no bullying it seemed like there was also like no interaction amongst students at all.
Nothing. It was confusing. The one point of
Yeah.
what looked like sort of socializing was when there was a reputation and they were like, you're the girl who like went into the city. And
Yeah.
that was the closest. And I was like, oh, this feels normal-ish. What's
And it
happening?
was such a quick little blip.
So quick. Then it was
And the
over.
fact
This is
that, like,
again why
she was
a
like,
show
"What-"
would be
yeah.
nice. Yeah.
And the fact that everyone was talking about it, and the fact that she was like, why'd you tell everyone they can't deny my surgery? How come no one heard about, like, how come none of the higher ups heard about this? If everyone's talking about,
Right.
you're
If
the girl
everybody's
who,
talking about
Were
it.
there even adults at the school?
That was another question I meant to ask
I
earlier.
didn't
Who
see
are the
any.
instructors? Are they pretties who are just coming over to teach?
Yeah.
or
Wait,
like
there was
what?
one scene. Wasn't there a scene with one? Did I make it up in my head? Is there a scene with a teacher?
Laverne, just
There was like
table.
a nurse
At the-
lady or chef lady. She had like a little hat, and she was like an adult, and she was a pretty. And she was
Pretty
doing
She was a
something.
pretty.
So
Hmm.
some pretties have to work.
What the
I
fuck?
think they do have
Just kidding.
jobs. I think they like get assigned jobs.
That makes sense. That
They
makes
get assigned
sense.
jobs, right? Because somebody's
People's got to do
something.
stuff.
And-
Yeah, people.
Yeah.
Because there are cops and there are like the specials who are like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the patrollers or the
I
squad
mean, they
people.
have
So, like,
the machines as well for like Law and Order.
Right.
I mean, someone's got to be doing the fashion and someone's got to be doing everything,
Yeah,
right?
there's
And if it's
select
good,
jobs.
I assume the food is good, by the way. I'm going to get really pissed if I get in there. It's not Michelin star chefs. Like, hello?
No, this had better be
Right.
This better be
goddamn
good
delicious.
food, bro.
or the legions make you think it's good food. Because I do think
If I
it's,
believe
like,
it's tasty, then
because I do think, like, to like Maiden's point, everything does look smooth and it doesn't look like beauty. It looks like filter. And then if everything is filtered and everything's augmented and it's like super tech, it's probably going to be like you're eating because like she's like, can I have the toothbrushing pill?
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah,
What was
yeah.
that?
That's what I was
This
trying
even
to
makes
envision
sense,
what
bro.
this technology is. Yeah.
Just doesn't even make sense. But okay, do you guys remember the scene in
So
The
are they
Matrix?
all plugged into Matrix? Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Do you remember the scene where the guy who betrays everybody's eating the steak? He's like, I know this isn't fucking real.
Yes.
He goes, I don't care. Put me fucking back in there where I think it's real again. And I do think that's the difference between people, and we should have a choice in that. We should have a choice in whether or not we want to live in the shit bucket or if we want to live in the place with the fake steak. And I think that's the thing that people try to do this now. Like, I'm actually not on TikTok. And I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I like it. But if you don't like it, that's good,
Yeah.
girl. I love that for you.
Right.
I like my
Flex.
TikTok. But like no judgment if you don't like it's like okay, and I get what they're trying to say. What they're trying to say is I'm worried that your relationship with TikTok is making your relationship with life worse, which is valid because it's making so many other people like it is their escape, it is their cope. Say that again?
Based on their experience. Or they're just projecting based on their experience.
Sure. And that's the thing
Right.
people always have to ask, like, that's what we do with everything. Mental illness, money, where you live, who you're dating. Like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you and it's like we have to trust that people have the right tools to make the right decisions for their lives. But I think it's very hard to trust people when you feel like I know what they should have done. And look, as a person who literally does this for a living, where I just look at people, I'm like, wrong. Like, I know that it sucks to look at some girl on the internet who doesn't know you to be like, bad mom. Like, that's a shitty thing to say about somebody. And all I'm saying is like, I'm saying I have a standard, it's subjective, and it only matters to me. And that is something that I really want people to understand, but it's really hard because we are validation seeking creatures.
It's hard to take offense. So like, I had this issue because like I moved to Massachusetts from Michigan, and when I told
Ooh.
my like family, like because I got engaged or whatever, so I was with my fiance, and then my inner circle, my cousins, these are like my closest friends. They were like, "Ooh, I don't know if that's like a great decision, right?" So my fiance got frustrated. She's like, why do they think that they can share their opinion? Right. Like, and in her mind, she's like, they're telling us what to do or they're judging our thought. And in my mind, I'm like, well, no, they are just like, they're people who think they have my best interest at
Right.
heart. And in their mind, this is like, they think it's like going to negatively impact them or us or me.
Right.
And so like it's word vomit. They're like, well, no, because they feel so close and they feel like they can share this information. And so it becomes like a whole thing where like, obviously, like if you have an idea or you have a plan and someone tells you something negatively, it's like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, obviously
Totally.
we thought about this. And so it's like, it's definitely hard to not take offense when someone's doing that, but also coming from someone who loves sharing their opinion and word vomits all the time. It's like, I see the other perspective too. And I got to know that the person feels like they have their best
Yes.
interest in heart when
Yeah.
you
Actually, we relay very heavily on this because my partner, when he first married me, he's like, hey, you have family that's very in your life, right? Like they're very opinionated. I was like, but we do not tell each other what to do, but we say very strongly
Yeah.
what we think we should do. And he learned that. He was
Exactly.
so relieved because it's true. I talk to my parents every day. My mom and dad are always giving us advice, and I'm like, they're just sharing what they think is good, but
Yeah.
they're gonna understand we're in our 30s, we're adults, they get it.
Yeah.
But like that's the same thing, and I see it as them like loving me. Like the other day, my sister asked my dad, she goes, I'm gonna send Brittany a package. I need help with this thing. And my dad goes, what are you sending her? And she goes, I'm sending her hot Cheetos. And my dad goes, your sister's already sick. What are you sending her cancer for? It's illegal where she is. It's like a drug. She can't even have it. Why are you sending it to her? And I told my mom and dad, I was like, it's okay. I just really miss them and I really need a bag and I want to see if I can get it. And they go, you're already sick. And I go, I know, but I'm also 35. I can have a bag of hot Cheetos. They're just worried. They're literally, and I don't want them to build up that sweat being worried, but their parents, that's what they're going to do. But I love that they're not in our business in that way that is so destructive because I don't want to have to choose between my family and my marriage. I like that they're there to respect our boundaries, but still like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, are you sure you want to do that? I think it's really nice, but you're right. It is so hard to know because when I was younger, I was like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what to do. And now I'm like, I appreciate your opinion. I will take it into consideration. Maybe, you know, and that's what it is. Yeah.
I like having other people's opinions, but then obviously I'm gonna make my own decision in the end. But I still want to hear what y'all think. I'm
Sure.
still curious.
Well, maybe you say something. Maybe it like clicks in my head different. Like I'm open
Yeah,
with
yeah.
boundaries.
That's why you share it, right?
right.
You share the idea in hopes that someone's
Because
gonna say something.
because I want some
like,
feedback.
Maiden's getting the camera fit now. The light was too bright.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
I had
like,
to
I don't
do an
know what
adjustment.
happened there.
And then I also want to watch. It's called What's Inside Us. Is that what the movie's
Oh
called?
yeah.
That
It's what's
seems.
inside, I think, on
What's
Yeah.
inside?
Netflix, right?
God, there's so
Yeah,
many
that
things.
movie seems like it's gonna
Well,
be
we
good.
have
It's a,
we all have Netflix for the month,
Mhm.
right?
Right, we now have it. I had it to
Perfect.
begin with, but we can watch as many Netflix things as we want because I do think these conversations are fun where we get to talk about
They
like a film or
are.
a
I
show.
agree.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like a book. It's like a book club.
It's a movie
That's
club.
what I like.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a movie because I'm linking it to like, okay, we don't have to read a book, but there's just an interesting movie or show.
Yeah, I like
Mhm.
it. I like it. All right, Arena, I see you unmuting yourself. You want to say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I am liking this turning into a movie club. It is fun.
I mean, look,
I hope we get to watch better movies than the uglies though
Yeah.
next time, please.
and look,
It
I'm
could have
open
had so much potential.
so much.
It did, and so many people were talking about it. And I was like, this is going to be such a great. And then it became a series movie, and I was like, oh
Bro,
my
the
god,
way
why would
I-
you do this?
The way I screamed, I was like, no, why'd you do that to me? Like, why did you set me up for this whole movie? I was not prepared.
I was so mad. My fiance was asleep at the end of the movie, and I like looked at her, and I woke her up, and I was like, "How dare you?" She was like, "Well," I was like, you left me alone to suffer while you got to sleep." She's like, "You're the one who has a panel on this, not me." I was like, "Are
That's
you
so
serious?"
funny. Well, that's testament to the film. She fell asleep. Like,
Yeah, oh my god.
yeah.
Mm.
I'm open to anytime anyone wants to collab about movies. You know what I mean? Like, I love doing this monthly panel. And like, if it becomes something where we talk about movies as often as we can, I also like that as well.
Mhm.
But we can always collab as often as anyone is available. So reach out if you have other things to
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about. I will finish Kevin because I'm definitely excited to talk about that because I've
Yes,
been loving it.
that would be so fun. I
And in a
wanna
few
do
months,
that.
maybe we can circle back to that. I don't want to rush
'Cause that's
anybody through 2
actually
seasons. Yeah.
a good show, I think.
I think there are 20 episodes, and honestly, if you start watching the first episode, it's really hard to not make that the thing of
sure.
binging. That
For sure. All right, perfect. Okay, guys. Well, that's all we're going to do tonight. Do you guys want to give yourselves a shout out? And then I'll link you in the comments so people can find you directly. So, Genevieve, let's start with you.
All right. Brittany's going to be linking everything below, but I am Madam Genevieve, occasional online content creator, and sex worker, sex educator, as well as some IRL stuff. Twitter, X is probably where I am most active, and it's got my links for everything else.
Perfect. Harmony?
I'm Harmony Bancroft. You can find me at the link below on x.com. I am also a sex worker and a panel participant as well.
Love it. Rita?
Hi, I'm Arena, or bye, I should say. My links will be below. I'm Arena Nana on YouTube and monoshock.john on Instagram and TikTok. Panel participant, fashion content sometimes. As I
love
can.
seeing you. I love seeing you on my feeds, and I'm like, oh, click. It's great. I love to see it. And Sociologic, who suggested this beautiful topic for today. Tell people where to find you.
Yeah, I'm at Sociologic, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Normally live on TikTok, but we're gonna transition into YouTube and more YouTube content because TikTok's fun. They really censor a
Yeah.
little bit
going
of
away
everything.
too.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know you go
Yeah.
on TikTok as often. That's so interesting to me,
Yeah.
actually. Okay, excited for you to also be on YouTube more. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And yes, chat says, is Kevin thing gonna be a panel for sure? We'll do a whole panel on the Kevin Go Fuck Himself show, and it'll be good. So guys, watch it so you're not out of the loop for this. Thank you for being here, guys. I do appreciate it. Please have a safe Halloween, whatever you end up doing,
Yeah, you too.
and I'll see you guys
Yes,
next
happy
month.
Halloween.
Thanks.
All right,
Bye,
bye.
guys.
Bye, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and head out. And I hope you guys have a really safe Halloween. Please be safe. Watch your kiddos. And I'll see everyone else on Tuesday for Stream Like Normal. Oh, and tomorrow podcast. Great podcast coming up, guys. You're going to love it. Talk to you guys soon. Good night.